Well, good evening, jerks. Good evening. I'm feeling pretty good today. I am feeling pretty good. This has been a roller coaster because I got so fired up about this judge and this prosecutor, but at the same time, it seems really good maybe to think that this nightmare for Karen Reed might be coming to an end soon. This is. I'm just talking to Bederow. He said circling the drain. That's what it seems like. We're circling the drain to the end. Some great witnesses. That's the thing that's getting me going. These expert witnesses have been phenomenal this week. Just one after another. Great defense witnesses, despite all the BS from Hank Brennan. One of the witnesses used that today. She called out the bullshit. It was amazing to see. I just got to say, right at the top, we're going to bring up, we have the program tonight. We got two great guests. Number one, 2 hours. Attorney Mark Bederow is going to be here answering all your questions about court today. At 8 p.m., we're going to switch over. We're going to have the great Jessica Machado here. She's a journalist. She's going to talk all about Aiden's case, about what happened in court yesterday. So we got two guests, two segments here tonight. Super chats, we read them at the end of the stream. So if you have any questions for Mark Bederow tonight or Jessica Machado, just put them in the chat. You don't have to pay to ask a question. Just put it in the chat. If you don't see me answer it or put it up on the screen, just keep posting it because I'm looking for it. There's so many comments, I can't keep track of them all. So if you got a question, just get it in early and just keep posting it. We'll try to answer it tonight. I also want to thank JFK and James. I had a great night with them last night and the whole crew. Let's get to the guest, Mark Bederow, Attorney Mark Bederow, Mr. Bederow, back on the Young Jerks. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
How are you? Good to see you.
Oh, today was something else. It was just another great day. It felt like for the defense. What did you think? I saw some of your posts today. Where do you want to start about today?
I think it's all about La Posada, right?
Yeah.
She was phenomenal. Probably the best witness they've had yet throughout the whole case. She was just a death knell to the prosecution case. Certainly their theory, their scientific theory. She really battered it on many levels, and she has the chops scientifically. She has an incredible demeanor and a way of dumbing it down for jurors, which is good, or for laypersons, and really did a good job explaining these concepts that are critically important. She was unscathed and untouched on cross-examination. In fact, as has happened, I think, with a lot of the experts in this case, the prosecution made it worse for them. Just emboldening and reasserting the defense theories and why the witness felt so strongly about what she did. You know, she made great points on cross about why the science matters more than what anybody told the media, or, you know, other things of that nature. You saw a gentle attempt, but an attempt nonetheless, to impeach her through things that happened that everyone of a certain age is certainly familiar with and remembers very well. What happened, that terrible thing where that nightclub and the exploding lights in the club. And I thought her answers were out of the park on that, in handling that, and in basically stuffing Brennan, you know, into a closet and shutting the door. And I think she's really important for another reason. She's the third pathologist to have testified, in essence, that there is nothing consistent with a car accident. She believes that the wounds on the arm are consistent with an animal bite, even though we know she would say dog bite. But in this bizarre court, you know, the judge came out with animal instead of dog, which makes no sense at all, but whatever. She easily dismissed the idea, the absurd idea, that a 6,000 car vehicle going backwards, striking a man in the eye would, you know, leave that kind of minor injury that John O'Keefe had on his eye. She dismissed hypothermia as a cause of death. She was emphatic that the head wound, if you will, was had a ridge and was not consistent with just smacking the grass, notwithstanding Brennan's attempts to say, well, what if there were rocks underneath the grass? And by the way, if that's what the prosecution is stuck on, if that's the straw they're grasping at, that they're, well, how do you know there weren't some pebbles or things underneath the grass that could have done it? You need to pack it up and go home if that's what you're focused on at this point. So she was spectacular, but she's the third of these witnesses who has essentially said that. And when you look at the science in this case, if you remember, that's what the DA promised was going to prove their case. Every qualified pathologist is entirely supporting reasonable doubt and contradicting or at least opposing the theory that's being offered by the prosecution. Those opinions are supported by the PhDs, the engineers. You've certainly heard from Dr. Wolf on that, who was for the most part unscathed. And of course, that cross-examination ended with a pathetic dud, most likely intentional misconduct, which he got slapped on. And if you heard at the end of today, he's going to get hit again tomorrow or whenever the rebuttal case is, that the court confirmed that those reports of Hartnett will be admitted. So they will go back to that. The other witnesses for the, Lawford, Barros, and you just look at the case at this point and you say, how do they get over the burden of disproving reasonable doubt? They have no scientific evidence. They have what they claim is tech stream data, which shows a car going in reverse at a certain time. But even if they have that, they don't really have anything else to go with that. And presumably they have their own accident reconstructionist who already has had problems. And now they're going to bring him back on rebuttal. And wouldn't you know, you're going to find out that when he claimed he didn't have much to say about the arm injuries and that there were no x-rays, well, wouldn't you know it, you found out today there were, in fact, x-rays taken at autopsy, which, again, according to La Posada, show no tissue damage. They show no bruises. They show no fractures or broken bones, of which you would expect. Rentschler says you started to hear his opinion. You should expect that. The other doctors have generally said you should expect that. And the best they have is Welcher saying, well, there's no x-rays. And I once handled the case where, there was a serious accident and look, there's no arm injuries, that sort of thing. So I think it's ultimately the jury will determine, obviously, but the case, from an honest evaluation, whatever your view is, it's circling the drain. It really is. There's just so much reasonable doubt in this case that it's suffocating. And that's what it is. And there's really no way around that. And once they got through La Posada today, and she was just untouched, that was their, last best, I think, fighter's hope. Throw a Hail Mary, get something. They've got nothing. And it's not going to get better with Welcher. He's not going to be able to contradict any of the forensic pathologists. He's not going to, I don't believe, going to do much to the ARCA witnesses. He's not going to salvage all the other problems with the case that exist. And all you have to do here, if you're the defense, is get jurors to say, well, maybe that's correct. Maybe. It's possible that all these witnesses for the defense, who have probably over 120 years of forensic pathology experience, know what they're talking about. Maybe these engineers know what they're talking about. Maybe Barros really saw the taillight in a way that it must have been planted. Maybe not calling Proctor, who's the lead investigator, who Buchanan pretty much lied about that. Maybe that's kind of a big deal. Maybe Jen McCabe's inconsistencies, maybe that actually counts for something. I mean, you could go on and on with this stuff. This is overwhelming reasonable doubt.
Absolutely. You mentioned the word x-ray. It's come up a lot pre-show, during the show now. Even some past statements from Baghdad Bob. I grabbed one. Let's put this one up. Actually, that's not it. Where is it? Is it this one? No, that's the. Hold on one second. I thought I had it. But we'll John DePietro show talking about how they don't do X-rays on people who are decreased, not deceased, decreased. But why didn't that come up before? Why do you think that that just came up today? And what about these idiots out here saying all this about the X-ray, and then we find out there was an X-ray?
Well, I mean, if you're going to start with somebody like DePietro, who, you know, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I coined Baghdad Bob, and that seems to be catching on because he is Baghdad Bob. He should just be, he's a clown. He's the one who tells you the jurors hate the case, and Karen is calling the shots and arguing with the lawyers and all this other nonsense. This guy is the clown prince of journalism, if that even fits. So he clearly doesn't know what he's talking about. The fact that he often gets a seat in the courtroom is embarrassing, but he has nothing to say. He's just a joke, and the only people who listen to him are the morning show on Court TV and the people who, again, think Karen may have caused cancer. So forget all that. The significance of the X-rays is the X-rays are part of an autopsy. That's normal. Notwithstanding what some of the other people have claimed and told them, you know, what ChatGPT told them, forget all that. Autopsies often include X-rays to see if there are broken bones. And not surprisingly, that would occur in a case that is an alleged car accident. I mean, or vehicle impact. That's normal to see if is there indicia of injuries that are consistent with vehicular accidents. So you get an autopsy report. Those X-rays would have been included in any number of ways. They could have been included in a PDF file, depending on how the photographs are shared. When you get autopsy reports, you're going to get hundreds of photographs. They're going to be range from just seeing a body in its natural state dead to various states of things that many people never want to see. I mean, you get the whole gamut. And usually you'll see, at least the ones I have, you'll see hundreds of photos. And they will go right down to, it's gory stuff. They will cut open the body and rip it out, and you'll see a heart, a brain. I mean, the whole bit, and they will do what it is. But there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of photos, and there can be several X-rays also. So that's normal to be included in a complete and thorough autopsy report. So now you fast forward to the testimony you heard. The testimony you heard last week or a week, 2 weeks ago of Welcher, who reviewed a lot of things, including, so he said, the autopsy report. And he was so thorough that he also, you know, watched the clips of Karen talking to the media. He is aware of the photographs from the state police. He heard the testimony of this person and that person, whatever. He said he reviewed the autopsy report. The X-rays are part of the autopsy report. Then he went so far when being challenged on the arm injury to say, well, as far as I know, there are no X-rays of the arm in question, you know, the one that he colored blue. So now that could be for any number of reasons. And at this point, it's not clear. He could be incompetent in that his definition of reading the autopsy report is looking at the typed report that actually outlines the medical findings, but not all the pictures. So that would be an incompetence, right? If he missed it, that's one possibility. Another possibility is that he's just flat out lying and that he did review it, but wanted to give weight to what he saw. A third possibility is that Mr. Brennan took it out and gave him an autopsy report without that particular X-ray. Now, I don't know that that happened, but I do know that he engages in gamesmanship with representing what the evidence is or what it isn't. Now, we don't know what happened here, but either way, there's an old legal term for the prosecution's position. You've probably heard it referenced before. They're screwed. That's the legal term. And the reason why is this is going to come up. Okay. And if I were the defense, I would actually bring it up tomorrow morning before it starts, because he's going to testify as a rebuttal witness, right? Which means you're only supposed to rebut testimony that's come in. It means it's supposed to narrow down. It's very similar to direct and cross and redirect. It's supposed to narrow down. He's not supposed to give new evidence. It's supposed to be responsive to something, and it's supposed to be responsive, presumably, to the ARCA, mostly to Dr. Wolf, and to some extent, maybe Dr. Rentschler. So the first concern I would have is that if the defense tries to bring this up on his cross-examination, that they claim that's beyond the scope. Because that's a total Brennan move, right? To say, never mind this significant relevant fact, I'm going to try to institute, this very narrow view of due process and say they're not allowed to hear it. And what the defense ought to say is, at the time this was said by Welcher last week, 2 weeks ago, something should have happened. If the prosecution was aware that he was wrong, he said there were no x-rays, and he knew, or Lally knew, or McLaughlin knew, they're all on the hook here, all of them. If they knew that was a inaccurate statement of a material fact, which that clearly would be, then they would be obligated to correct that with the court. Now, they didn't. Now, do they not know? It's hard to believe. The I don't know excuse is what they gave with the holes in the hoodie, right? That was who knew. I didn't know that.
It's a mistake.
Now, let's eliminate that right away, though. If John O'Keefe's right arm is probably, from an evidentiary standpoint, the most critical evidence, as much as the taillight, anyway, the condition of the that's the crime, right? That's the whole evidence of what happened or didn't happen vis-a-vis the vehicle and hitting his arm. Does anybody seriously believe that, here we go again, 3 years into this case, an autopsy that occurred a couple days after he was killed, that no one in the prosecution was aware that the right arm that was allegedly struck and has all of those striations and injuries was never x-rayed? Because obviously you would expect it to have broken bones. You would expect there to be bruising. And from the prosecution standpoint, you would look right away, because that's good evidence if it exists. It's very difficult evidence to explain if it doesn't. So let's all agree it's impossible that they don't know that the x-ray itself was taken. So here comes, I'm sorry, but here comes Welcher to say, I don't think there was an x-ray. Already it feels like the DA is sitting there, looking at the floor, whistling in the wind, hoping nobody knows. Now, if it was included, they didn't correct that. And if Welcher did have it, why didn't he see it? Or why didn't he say he did? So again, is he incompetent? Is he lying? I think the defense should bring this up, make sure that they get the right to do it. And then when Welcher testifies as a rebuttal witness, when it comes time for cross-examination, they're going to unleash the hounds and just eviscerate him, because which is it? Is he incompetent? Is he lying? Or was he misled by the prosecutor the same way Dr. Wolf was misled by Brennan a couple of days? And the reality is, take your pick. Either one of those three scenarios, they're screwed.
She doesn't want to fall on the sword and say I'm incompetent, especially if the truth is, which I believe. My question now is, which one of them is it? Is it all of them? Is it one of them? Because I agree, like they would know. They would definitely. That's ridiculous. So it's funny.
Also,
like, what do you think will happen when they start? The defense starts going with this tack.
I think the problem is you're kind of stuck with what Welcher said the last time, and I believe what he said was, or he gave the implication that there were x-rays, but not of that arm. Now, if that's the case, it's very bad, because look at the injuries of John O'Keefe, okay? And the primary, obviously the head injury speaks for itself. You're going to want to look at those x-rays, but they're not as important because you see what you see. It's obvious that the head injury is the cause of death, but the arm injury is what makes the alleged pedestrian vehicle accident either plausible or not. I mean, the case really sinks or swims on how believable or not believable, how plausible, how compelling the strike of the arm is. So from an evidentiary standpoint and a case evaluation standpoint, that's far and away going to be the most significant x-ray you're going to want to see. Number one, let me see if he's beat up inside his arm, because that's going to support our theory of him getting hit by the car. So it's just unfathomable. It's impossible to believe that the prosecutor could not be aware of it. But yet here comes their expert who says, I'm unaware of it. So what the hell is going on here? Which is it? I mean, this really feels in some ways like a redux of the nonsense you saw yesterday with the hoodie. And it feels like it's going down that same path where you're going to get an answer from either the witness or the prosecutor. And the answer is going to be, I don't know. I didn't see it. It must be a mistake. You know, it's kind of like, you know, where's the Ring video? I don't know. Where's the library video? I mean, it's just another example of a case that is just flawed from start to beginning, of a poor investigation, potentially a corrupt investigation. And it really doesn't matter. The point is they are going to have no possible explanation for why Welcher did not, in his direct testimony in the DA's case in chief, opine about that. And, you know, by saying there were no x-rays, think about it. That gives him an out. You know, I don't know, you know, just because you don't see anything, maybe there's a fracture underneath. I don't know. There's no x-rays. Now he's going to get confronted with x-rays. And would you expect to see, now he's got a tough decision. Never mind why he said or why he didn't get it. But now he's got to go into scientist and accident reconstruction mode, which is, you know, hypothetically 24 miles an hour. You told us the taillight would shatter at 8 miles an hour, I think is what he said. Now you get smashed into 24. You've seen the ARCA experiment of what 24 looks like. Would you expect tissue damage, bruising, broken bones? And if I told you there wasn't, how would that factor into your opinion? What's he going to say? Nothing. They're screwed, Mike. They're screwed.
The question, Boo, Alessi's Cooler says, Mark, when you were ADA, could you ever fathom not giving your experts x-rays of the deceased? The fact Hank most likely didn't do it to the JW is so telling.
If he did, I don't know what he did. No, when you're a prosecutor and you get an autopsy report and it includes photographs, it includes notes, it includes the actual typed report, it includes x-rays, it includes if there are any CAT scans or other types of neurological things and tests that they've done, you turn it over. I mean, it's lawyer 101, and you know, you give it to your own expert. So you would naturally assume the expert got it and maybe he missed it, but it's hard to believe for a couple of reasons. Number one, because you saw what you saw yesterday with Brennan in the hoodie. Okay. Not every lawyer has that gene of willing to play fast and loose with evidence, right? You either have it or you don't. It appears that the evidence in this case establishes that Brennan has that gene, that he's willing to do it. Now, he says it's an accident. Okay, maybe he didn't do it. I'm going on what I see. And, you know, in my opinion, he has that gene. Okay. You cross the line or you don't. He appears to be willing to fly as close as he can and maybe go a little bit over. That's my opinion. That's based on evidence that we've seen. Maybe, you know, maybe he's right. Maybe he's telling the truth. But then that leads you to the other problem, which is then Welcher's an idiot. and I'm not sure either one of these is working for the prosecution. And this is already after the fact that they got absolutely annihilated by La Posada. They're about to get utterly destroyed by Rentschler. They got severely harmed, and I would say destroyed by Wolf. They definitely got damaged by Loughran. They definitely got damaged by Barros. They definitely got severely damaged by Scorty Bello. Some of their own witnesses didn't do so great. You could go on. And it all comes back to, how are they ever going to convince the jury that there's no doubt here? It is only our way and no other way. They don't have any medical evidence on their side. I mean, when have you ever seen this in a criminal case? They don't have a manner of death. Their own medical examiner supports the defense, and 2 other pathologists also support the defense. They literally have no medical evidence on their side, and they're going to get up in front of the jury and say there's no reasonable doubt here. It's absurd.
Absolutely. It's so lopsided. It should be just
It's completely
the quickest.
lopsided.
Yeah. It should be the quickest jury deliberation. It really should be.
It should be, and again, jurors do whatever jurors do, but nothing has gone good for the prosecution. And I can't even remember the last time they did something well in this case.
Would you still consider, they're supposed to have Welcher as a rebuttal.
Mm-hmm.
Would you bring him out? Would you not be like, can they cancel him? Would you, if you were running the prosecution right now, what would you do about the Welcher situation? I know you don't know all the details on how that situation happened, but it seems, should they even bring him out?
I wouldn't show up tomorrow. I'd be at Logan Airport and flying to the Bahamas or someplace else.
You dismiss the charges. Yeah.
Look, I don't think they should have brought the charges. I told you that, a year and a half ago. I don't even know why we were here, and that was before the first trial. But here they are, and so they're not going to quit, obviously, and they're not tanking the case. That's all nonsense. No one should think like that. So are they going to call him? Yeah, because what else are they going to do? I mean, they're getting clobbered. And, I'm sure he's done some testing that they think will help. It probably won't. But what do? He'll say a few Hail Marys. He'll throw a few Hail Marys and do his best and probably lose. But that's the way I think this was always destined to be.
Question about if Hank will be sanctioned by the bar, then Bones asked. And how would that happen? Like, is it the judge who decides, or is it the BBO, or the BBO wait for the judge? Like, because I have a feeling the judge will do nothing.
No, the judge isn't
about sanctioning?
Lawyers only get subject potentially to discipline if complaints are made. I'm not advocating that, by the way. I'm not here to tell people to do that. It's not
your role.
No. Let me be very clear. But I'm talking generally. Files on lawyer investigations are open when somebody complains, and the vast majority of them are usually dismissed out of hand because they are usually nothing. But if a lawyer was being investigated for making false statements or presenting false evidence intentionally, that's something that someone could be definitely subject to discipline. But whether that would happen to any particular lawyer is, I don't know. But you don't
often. Let me ask you this: how often does a defense attorney do it? Like when you're in a defense case, let's say if Karen was your client, I know she's not, but if you're Alan Jackson and the rest of them, do they often file against prosecution in cases like this? If it's crazy, do they file those kind of complaints, or is that like very rare? I'm just wondering.
No, I think that's actually pretty rare. Somebody's ringing a bell. I think it's pretty rare for litigants, lawyers to actually do that. The reality is, if this case ends up in an acquittal, they're gonna have a lot to say. I'm sure a lot of it will be very unpleasant towards a lot of people involved in the investigation and prosecution, but my suspicion is they would leave it out of their hands for what happens to anyone. So, I don't think for them it goes beyond winning, but, I don't know what is in anyone's mind or not. But it's not common that, cases are tried, even when they're aggressive, that at the end of the case, the lawyers accuse each other formally of ethical violations and file. I mean, that's pretty almost unheard of.
I guess I missed the doggies. It was breaking up for me, which is weird. And
Oh yeah,
I guess I missed the doggies. That was what was going on over there.
yeah. Somebody rang the doorbell and they were a little
Oh,
upset. Yeah.
oh, did they call it the two dog salute? Full melt. I
Well,
wonder
usually
what I missed.
it makes people run away when they ring the doorbell because it sounds like there's Cujo back there. But
Bark is worse than the bite. Yeah. A
well,
lot
yeah.
of dogs like that. Yeah.
Well, she's a lab, right? She sounds aggressive, and then you open the door,
yeah.
and you just want to lick you
your
in
face.
And if you throw them a piece of food or anything, they're distracted. So, yeah.
Oh, those are the dogs I love hanging out with.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have so many comments. I'm gonna bring up some more comments here. Actually, before we even do that, let's go to this. This is breaking. The jury instructions from both the defense and the prosecution have come out. Have you seen this?
Nope.
You have it?
This is today?
Yes, just came out today.
Okay.
And basically, the defense is obviously asking for what we talked about, the witness, the missing witnesses. They want that in there. Missing witness argument in jury instruction means that the court may instruct the jury that an adverse inference, we know that. They're also requesting to argue this issue in their closing, and that the judge should instruct the jury on the issue. There's some other ones too, but the big ones, like I want to talk about, is the prosecution. He's requesting, this is strange. The Commonwealth requested a consciousness of guilt instruction that would read in part, you have heard evidence suggesting that the defendant may have intentionally tried to destroy, conceal, or falsify evidence in this case, and may have intentionally attempted to harass and intimidate witnesses whom the defendant believed would testify against her. What do you think about that? That seems like, what does that have to do with the charges against her,
My comment to the people prosecuting this case would be, have you no shame? What are you talking about? What evidence of destroying, concealing, or falsifying evidence? What, driving the car to Dighton after getting a chilly response at John O'Keefe's and going home? That's pathetic. That instruction can't possibly be given. I don't know what this court will do, but that's shameful that they would even seek that. And it tells you just what this case is about and the level of desperation. As far as the evidence that the defendant, meaning Karen, engaged in any form of witness intimidation, or where was it? Can you pull it up again, the exact language, what they're asking? There
we go. Right there.
Intentionally attempted to harass and intimidate witnesses. What's the evidence of that? What is the evidence that Karen tried to harass or intimidate witnesses? Is this based on some of the throwaway language in her out of context clips? Is that what they're talking about?
I think so. I mean, that's probably the best they have, right?
Get out of here. That's embarrassing.
I should know too. This is on MS whatever website, but it's actually from Christina Rex. This is Christina Rex story.
There's no evidence. There's absolutely no evidence. And again, I don't even know what the proffered basis would be that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe someone can refresh my recollection because I forget. But what is the evidence of witness intimidation? I'm literally not recalling anything that allegedly would go back to the current defendant being tried. I know that there was, this kind of pathetic round of cross-examination of Lawfren about another person allegedly intimidating witnesses, which was denied out of hand, as you know. But I don't know what they're linking that to Karen. I literally can't think of a single thing. If I'm wrong, tell me and we can talk about it. I just can't remember.
Does anyone? Let's ask the chat. Does anyone have anything? What's he talking about? Yeah, everyone says it sounds like Turtle Boy issue, but I mean they tried to get an indictment against them both, and it didn't happen. So
that jury instruction. I mean, look, you have to be credible as a prosecutor, and the more they act, the more they talk, and the more you see, the less credible they become. That's just an embarrassing thing to suggest with a straight face.
yeah, this is Bobby Swain has one. This was a good one. Maybe he's trying to talk about Devers, how
What?
she said she was threatened. Remember, she said she was threatened by them.
Well, what if by the way, if that were even true, that was a lawyer. So now we're imputing that somehow that was endorsed by the client. So the jury should find her guilty because she has a consciousness of guilt by shaking down Dever. Even this judge would not allow that.
Yeah, that's way too much. Even for Bev, I think. Hopefully, I mean, she just goes along with everything, though. That's the problem.
Not this. That's the consciousness of guilt charge. I mean, I do remember them arguing about moving the car was somehow, concealing the murder weapon. And I just remember thinking she went with her father. They didn't feel welcome. They got their stuff. They left. They drove home. They parked the car in the driveway in plain view. And the joke I made, the car was ass out, right? The right rear taillight was open to view for anyone to see. That's an interesting way of concealing evidence as opposed to stashing it in a driveway or pushing it down a hill somewhere in Connecticut or Rhode Island into a lake so it never gets seen again. I mean, they are grasping at straw.
Reaching.
They are desperate. They are reaching because they know there's no there.
A comment from Jessica. She says, I 100% think the defense watched the live yesterday. I didn't notice they talked about the Bruins. Do you think they're watching? I mean, do they actually have time? I sometimes I think that, but then I'm like, no, those guys are working all night probably. I mean, what do you think? Do they actually watch these shows on jury, when they're in front of a jury the night of?
I mean, look, lawyers, especially very good ones, are always open to suggestion. They are aware of things. They certainly know a lot of people. I know a lot of people. It would not be unnatural for conversations and brainstorming and watching and over the course of things. I mean, that's the way it is today. It's not 20 years ago where those kinds of things would never really happen. So I would not assume that they don't get advice pointers or seek advice pointers from all kinds of people, whether they be lawyers, as the case may be sometimes, and not always lawyers. You might be surprised. A lot of people who watch this stuff have found a lot of really interesting things.
True.
So,
I could especially see, honestly, the family members too, because I know that they watch a lot of the show. So I can imagine them saying, hey, did you see what Bederow said last night? Like one of the family members saying that to Jackson. I could see that happening.
Look, everybody knows everybody. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't assume it's that rare. And again, people who are really skilled and are really comfortable in what they do are willing to look elsewhere and absorb ideas. So you shouldn't be so surprised if those kinds of things happen from time to time.
Question about the summation. Squark wants to know, how does the defense handle the planted taillight pieces as part of summation?
We've been talking about this for months and months since the first trial. At first blush, it almost sounds, how could that be, right? It just, who wants to believe that? So you have to work backwards. You have to work with the science. And once you establish the science, it pretty much eliminates the realistic possibility that the taillight would be there naturally. And then, where's Michael Proctor? The way it was recovered, it all flows from the science. And I think at this point, their summation almost certainly should be 75 to 80%, if not more, the pathologists and the engineers. They have entirely dismantled the fundamental premise of the prosecution's case. And that is before you even get to the name Michael Proctor, Brian Higgins, Jennifer McCabe, all that stuff. They have scientifically put so much reasonable doubt in that you put that out there first, and then you work in these other pieces where the jury's already with you and understands that must have been planted. And then here comes Barrows, is a beautiful, after the science and the ARCA, you weave in Barrows, it leads to Proctor. They didn't even call him. They were too afraid to call the lead investigator. They wouldn't even tell you he was the lead investigator. He lied about the time they got the car. You know all about, the Sally Port and this. It really writes itself if you start with the science and the engineering.
Because someone just said, I think he did it quicker than that. Murphy's Law said, Mr. Bederow, could you do closing here in 60 minutes? I think he just did it in like 30 seconds. I think that was perfect, actually.
Well, first of all, if that's what you're told you have to do, you have no choice. But the answer is yes. It's not ideal, but you could do it if you had to in 30. Again, it's not ideal. You don't maybe get in the weeds on a lot of things that you want to, but if the jury is having a problem with the science, the rest of it is meaningless. Nothing else matters if you believe scientifically that the car could not be in the condition, John O'Keefe could not be in the condition, his injuries are not consistent, it explains the taillight, all of that. And then you can work in other things, once you get from the science, then you have Loughran. He wasn't out there. Okay. That, by the way, is support. Because again, you have to marshal the evidence. Some of the science actually supports La Posada. Loughran. La Posada saying he didn't die of hypothermia actually goes hand in hand with Loughran, who says he wasn't out there that long.
2 a.m. Yeah.
That goes hand in hand with the temperature decline of the phone, which kind of declined rapidly, but then kind of slowed. So it all ties together, but it's all supported by the science. Barrows, you don't want to believe him? Yeah, but he's supported by the ARCA guys and the science. Loughran, supported by the science. The missing taillight, it's all supported by the science. It really is, as Jesse said, yeah, science, Mr. White, science. It is science, and they have an overwhelming amount, and that's what gives every argument they're going to make credibility. And then you look at the prosecution, and where are they going? Because Jennifer McCabe said, I hit him, which is not really supported by much of the evidence. Because Buchanan says, but I found taillight pieces over the course of 3 weeks. That's not very impressive. Because Burgess says this is what the data shows. Well, he's got problems. Welcher says, but I got blue paint, so ARCA's wrong. And, never mind the x-rays. Where are they going? Even with the whole Proctor stuff, don't forget the glass on the bumper. What a nice fact to add to the taillight and the science is, wouldn't you know it, this is the only guy who is related to glass on the bumper that's not from John O'Keefe. How the hell could that be? Another coincidence, right? They never did this. Look.
Over and over. It's those experts that got me so not worrying about them not calling Proctor. The last couple of days, just going through the science, like you said, the science, the experts. I guess they really don't need all this other stuff. It seems obvious now to me.
Well, in the last week, they have really stacked good day upon good day and really overwhelmed and kind of snuffed out the prosecution case where they're just flailing around hopeless, I think. Now, if you really wanted to beat a dead horse. You could still do the Proctor stuff. You could still do Higgins and all that. I think it's clear why they're not doing it. They're completely satisfied that what they're doing now gets them to where they need to go. I think it does. I mean, there's certainly room to add more always, but it's clear that their calculation is that the medical and engineering testimony is just smothering and makes the DA, their position, it's just not tenable. Yeah. The burden of proof makes their position just tenable. I mean, Brennan could give an incredible summation, the summation of his life. You still have to find 12 out of 12 jurors who are going to say, I don't think what the defense is alleging is even reasonable. That's not even reasonably possible. I think that's just a bridge too far. I can't understand how that could possibly happen.
It's amazing to see these the two medical doctors, the two women, to have Brennan try to bully them but not be able to do so. I just wonder if they shouldn't have tried having a woman cross them. Maybe if it would have been just a different kind of feeling, because it felt like he was trying to be a bully, but then he couldn't bully him, which is like, it felt so good actually, like to see like him not to get away with it. That's what I keep thinking about over and over again over the last days, is that this guy is failing badly. He's trying to be a tough guy, but it's not working.
He was pantsed by La Posada. I mean, she stuffed him in a locker and just would have none of it and yielded nothing. There was nothing to yield. And I mean, that's why I said that was a watershed moment in the trial. At that point, they've got to recognize we're out of options here. I mean, we have what we have. There's no October surprise here, right? I mean, that's what a lot of people were predicting before the trial, that, oh my God, they're going to have this data and all. And by the way, it turns out the data is that Shannon Burgess says that, I've lined up and the car went 24 miles an hour in front of the house. Even if the jury accepted that, where's the proof that it hit him? And I mean, they don't have that. I'm not saying that the defense concedes that in any stretch, but there are hypotheticals or certain levels of analysis that jurors could get into and say, let's give the prosecution a lot of the benefit of the doubt. She must have rammed that car 24 miles an hour. Okay, but what's the evidence that she actually hit him then? The doctors are telling us it doesn't make sense. The engineers are telling us it's not consistent. How do we know? And then somebody, I just looked over at the comment, and then somebody says, yeah, but he would have been home at 12:30. She would have been home at 12:36. So where's the timeline? What about the Jeep? What about this? What about Proctor? I mean, you could go on and on and on, and it's reasonable doubt. I mean, and to a moral certainty.
I think a lot of reasonable doubt to go through in an hour. That's the issue about the hour. In fact, it's like, because you could keep going and going and going, but I guess you really don't need to when you get an hour of it. It just, I think the jury's going to be, I've had enough, not guilty. Let ask this question. Barbie's 3000 says, what about young jurors not understanding reasonable doubt and wanting to know how John O'Keefe died? Do you think that will become an issue? Do you think young jurors will be...
It shouldn't, because and look, again, you have a master lawyer who's going to be doing the summation, by the way. And certainly lawyers have different styles in the way they're doing it. But certainly one of the first things I would be saying in a defense summation, I mean, like out of the box within the first 30 seconds, is it's critical to explain why we're here. We're here to adjudicate Karen and whether there is reasonable doubt. And it's important to also recognize why we are not here. We are not here to solve the circumstances surrounding John O'Keefe's death. You could even make a joke. We're not here to establish that it was Professor Plum with the candlestick in the study. We're here to determine whether they have proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's it. and then you say something like, the evidence doesn't establish literally what happened, but it does establish one thing for which there's plenty of reasonable doubt. She didn't do it. Now, as far as who, everything else, it's clear that they make it clear that you're not here to solve it. You do have to tell them that, because a young jury may not understand that.
So I think that's important, because last jury, I think, tried to solve, not even based on the testimony and the evidence, which is that was really problemsome. So I think you're right.
But in all fairness, one could say the way the case was tried last year, in certain ways, I mean, not to me, not to lawyers, but in looking at how laypersons look at it, maybe they did go too far in trying to push a resolution and create a referendum and erroneously make some jurors say, well, we need to focus on that. The focus has to be on not Karen, not Karen, not Karen for the following reasons. And whatever it is, it's not this. And the science establishes that, period. And you have to just keep going. And every fact, you have to say, that's supported by the science, that's supported. And just repetition is key.
I got the Clue reference. I don't know if younger jurors do. Is Clue like a big thing? That game, Clue? Like,
well, that's kind of depressing if they don't get that. But yeah,
maybe they got to do something that's like hip to the young people. That's like Clue, like, or Hardy. We used to have the what was it? The Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys and Murder She Wrote. But you also mentioned earlier a show with the science. What the hell show was that? Because I know it, but I don't know it. I'm trying to remember what it was. What show was that? The one with the science? I think it's maybe, who was the actor? Was it
Aaron Paul, Jesse Pinkman in Breaking Bad?
Oh, you're talking about of course. See, I thought it was one of these comedies. See, I was yeah, okay. I thought it was like a sitcom from the 80s or 90s or something. I get it. Breaking Bad. Yeah, Jesse Pinkman. Okay, of course.
Look, and look, if you're feeling,
should have known.
If they're feeling frisky in front of the jury and you get a good vibe and you even say, as Jesse Pinkman said, science, Mr. White, it's all about the science. You know what? They'll get it.
They'll get that. Yeah, that's me. I missed it because I watched a few episodes of Breaking Bad, but I wasn't that much into it. But it is a good show. Like, from what I watched, it is very intense and I get it.
There's two quotes, and someone in the chat's mixing it up. It's yeah, science, Mr. White, and the one that has bitches, that's magnets, bitches. That's different. That's a different scene where they create a magnetic reaction to get into Gus Fring's lap talk after he died. That's it. But somebody was mushing the quotes. It's okay.
But now I can see I'm causing a stir in the chat. Some people are very mad that I haven't. I missed that. It's okay, people. Some things. Some people are very upset now. It's funny that. Oh yeah, I gotta watch it. I gotta watch Breaking Bad.
You've never seen Breaking Bad?
No, I have. It's just been a while, and I didn't it's one of those series I watched a couple episodes, but that was about it. I probably watched the first 2, 3, 4 episodes of the first season. I did like it. It was good. He's the science teacher. I think he was dying of cancer or something, or his wife was, and then so I saw that little beginning, but I didn't follow the whole thing. But I should have known. You always talk about Breaking Bad. If it's not The Wire, it's Breaking Bad.
It gets much better as each season goes on. It's one of those rare shows that better and better and better, and just has an incredible last couple seasons. I mean, it's insane.
When did that come out too? I'm trying to remember why I didn't watch the rest of it.
11, I think it started probably in 2009 and went to 2013, give or take. It's a while already, and it's based in takes place in 2002, 2003. Yeah.
So we answered all the TV questions tonight. I'm all caught up now. Hopefully people aren't too mad about me not knowing enough about Breaking Bad. What about this one? Does it seem like Brennan keeps changing his theory about how John O'Keefe was injured? Is that normal for a prosecution? He's acting like a defense attorney.
Well, no, it's not normal. credibility with the jury. I'm going to tell you what happened. Come take my hand and I'm going to lead you through this maze of evidence, and I'll meet you at the finish line where there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And as a prosecutor, you have to be credible. And if you start dancing around, making up new theories or flailing around, that's a terrible thing as a prosecutor. So that's a sign of desperation and a case that's flagging.
This is fun. This is a good one. Carol asks, what is your best guess on how long jury instructions will be? I predict it will take a week just to iron that out.
The charge conference will probably take 30 minutes. I mean, it's nothing. And then when she reads it to them, it takes usually about an hour. So it's probably, for lawyers, it's the most boring part of the trial, actually, because you just sit there and try not to drool and fall asleep and burp and, do things that will embarrass you. They'll hammer it out. I mean, the judge is going to do what she's going to do. I mean, they'll clearly fight over the missing witness charge that the defense wants. They will certainly fight over the consciousness of guilt, which the defense will certainly move to say is not appropriate, that the evidence doesn't support that. Beyond that, most of the stuff is generally boilerplate. There's always certain, the defense will want an instruction on no inference to be drawn from Karen not testifying, things like that. But, they'll have to make sure that they're not trying to sneak anything in there. They'll do that, but, eventually charge conferences tend to be relatively tame with a few arguments.
Maybe a half day.
If that.
Day at the most, yeah, if that.
Not even.
Oh, there she is.
There she is. There you go.
Love doggies. Mr. Bederow, is it more important to win or get justice? Do these ever come at the same time? You're great at commentary. Thank you for your time. That's Verita D.
So that's a really philosophical question that it depends where you sit. If you represent the prosecution, you need to do justice in the classic sense of making sure the defendant is tried fairly and is convicted only if guilty after a fair trial that complies with all of her constitutional rights and whatnot. If it means you lose because mistakes were made, rights were violated, justice in that context means defendant shouldn't be convicted. That may not be justice for John O'Keefe. That's a different thing. When you represent a defendant, you define justice through a different lens, right? You obviously, if you represent a defendant, you want to get the best result possible. You certainly have to follow all ethical rules, try the case ethically, honestly, fairly, but you may be trying to get a verdict of not guilty, where in any certain case, the client may in fact be factually guilty. So, but if the evidence doesn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, is that the just result? In a legal sense, it is. I mean, the way the system is set up, the adage, better 10 guilty people go free than one innocent be wrongfully convicted. That's just the American style of justice. But for a prosecutor, it should be open and shut easy. You have to try a case fairly, with integrity, honestly, and only if you think the evidence supports the finding. The problem with this case is, in my view, and I think many others' views, their view of what a fair trial is for Karen is very different than I think most prosecutors do. And they seem to have this conflated belief that their right to a fair trial is on a constitutional plane equal to hers, and it's not. It's just not. The Constitution protects an individual's rights against the power of the government. The government doesn't have constitutional rights. They may be entitled to fairness in the proceedings, which is true, but they have no constitutional rights. And every time they bitch and moan about a fair trial, they probably should check themselves and realize, look at the stuff that they're doing to the defendant at the bar. So it's a complicated question, but for the prosecutor, it's very easy. For the defense, it can be, there is a lot of gray in the world of criminal defense. And a lot of times when you see prosecutors who think too much in black and white, that's not good because there is a lot of gray.
The world is a lot of gray. I mean, it's not always clear cut.
Yep.
This is a great question. I think I know how you're going to answer, but Donna M says, do you think the defense will or should play the full clips of Karen's interviews for context?
Nope. I think the clips are, in the grand scheme of the case, minimal. I think it's obvious they're out of context. I think it's worth a minute or two in defense summation to talk about what they are. But the clips in terms of compelling proof are here. The science is here. And if nothing else, due to Brennan's over-aggressive cross-examination, he actually walked in to something the defense can talk about, which Dr. Russell, I think it was, talked about acute stress reaction, or I'm butchering the medical term, how people may say things, and then it gets lodged in their memory and they may think it's true. But at the end of the day, just because somebody says something, there may be reasons where, you wish they didn't, which she should not have done in this case. Does it look good? No. But if there is a conflict between what she says and what the scientific data shows, that's like a no-brainer. What controls? The science always controls. So I don't think it's worth that much. It's worth mentioning, but not that much.
Wicked Boston question for Mr. Bederow. If Karen is found not guilty, do the witnesses still have the protection from protesters?
Well, a lot of them are witnesses in other cases involving, which we won't talk about in detail. So, I mean, look, the case is going to be over. It'll probably end favorably for the defense. People have a right to express their opinions. At this point, I don't know that you need to do it at the witnesses, whoever they may be. I don't know that it's just worth it in any event.
I tell people, be careful. Just be careful.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't encourage people to do anything that could put them in a situation where even a government overreach could make them be accused of this crazy statute in Massachusetts. And certainly if you were to see someone in a position where someone may be in a situation where it looks like they're doing something, one hopes that you would steer them away and just tell them to move on because it's not worth it.
Exactly. The BZ says, what do you think about jury asking question about striking video today?
What did I miss? There was a question.
I know, right? I saw this posted about today too, and I don't know where this is coming from.
So. I'm not aware of a juror asking any question at all.
We need to find out more about that.
Do you mean the video that they tried to play in front of Dr. La Posada of one of the ARCA videos? Yeah, no, that was properly sustained. Having her look at a video with no context, trying to influence her to change her opinion, that was, again, another form of misleading. And the judge, I think, properly said, let's not do that.
Yeah, apparently they're saying in the chat that one of the jurors did ask the bailiff about it, who went to the judge.
Well, that's...
They asked what striking meant, is what D said. I need to check that out because I'm
not aware of that.
Yeah, I had a busy day too, and I didn't get to see every bit of testimony. And I saw people talking about that on Twitter.
We have a runaway jury. They're asking questions. We're told
already?
Graded. They've already been lectured about making faces. Do we have the makings of kind of a rogue jury? That's interesting. I don't know. Interesting.
Oh, questions coming in. Some of them good ones. I'm trying to get back to them. Oh, I missed it. I'll go back to the other questions I have. Yeah, this is Goldie says, if she is acquitted, will we find out what the defense wanted the jury to see in the garage?
Something tells me that if Karen is acquitted, that neither she nor her lawyers would be bashful about, sharing what that is. Obviously, they'd have to make that decision, but I would think if there is an acquittal, there's going to be an awful lot of things to be said. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that was one of them, but I think the primary point of discussion would be just about this process, 3 years of hell, and everything that goes with it, including treatment by law enforcement at every level, treatment by the system. But again, they shouldn't even be thinking about this because there's a long way to go. But I mean, it's getting close, but they're not there.
I guess from the chat, they're telling us it was in regards to the video that Hank showed.
Yeah.
And so basically, the juror wanted to know what striking that testimony meant.
Oh, I see. It means disregard it. That's all.
Yeah, they didn't understand.
Right.
It's maybe another example of Bev needs to explain a little better.
Yeah.
So.
Could be. Yeah. I mean, you don't want jurors not knowing when the judge gives them a curative instruction and they don't even know what the hell it means. You certainly don't want that.
This is the one I was looking for, I think. Yeah, I got it. Steve Kelsey, this is the one I was looking for, the question. Can you talk about the ruling that Welcher can't have written opinion, but only verbal?
I'm not entirely sure. I mean, obviously, are we talking about Rentschler or Welcher? I think we've mushed.
I know, right? The two names together.
Yeah. I think they're talking about Rentschler.
I think you're right. I think you are right.
I don't know why one would be appropriate and not the other one. The reality is, at this point, Rentschler, who is really polished, by the way, you see how good he is at this. His testimony at this point it's almost cruel. It's just piling on in a good way for the defense. But there's already so much evidence that the jury's saying, why does he have no arm injuries? How could he not have arm injuries? And now Rentschler, is going to explain, obviously, about you would expect that and kinetics, the way an arm moves and the impact. So it doesn't matter whether there's a written opinion on the slide or whether he just says it. The slide, it could be deemed prejudicial. They see it. It includes hearsay. It includes an opinion. Jury looks at it. They remember it. I mean, I don't think it's inappropriate for the judge to strike slides that say, like, proof that this happened. I mean, it's just, you don't usually allow that kind of gratuitous, influential excess. That doesn't offend me.
Question came in about if Karen is found not guilty, how would that affect the civil suits against her?
I mean, technically it wouldn't. Obviously, if she was convicted, it could dramatically affect it because the civil burden is lower. And there's this, thing called res judicata, where issues that are litigated, if there's a finding that applies, it can be used in another proceeding as proof of, instead of relitigating it. But, the lawsuit relates to being overserved and, drunk driving and all that. Most of the people who are witnesses in that case are not even testifying at the criminal trial. It certainly is going to hurt the plaintiff, meaning the civil plaintiff, Paul O'Keefe, and the estate of John O'Keefe, because the science, the evidence you're seeing that's favoring Karen now in the criminal case, that's establishing there's no car accident. Well, if there's no car accident in the criminal case and you're suing her for wrongful death for causing John O'Keefe's death by drunk driving, that's going to help her in the civil case too. But it doesn't end it, but it helps substantially.
It's another follow-up question on that. Somebody asked if she's not guilty, but she's still facing the civil suit, will that, you think, limit her speech, or do you think she'd be not caring at that point?
Well, she won't have a Fifth Amendment privilege in the civil case if she's no longer in criminal jeopardy. So the reality is, if she's acquitted and the civil case continues, they can take her deposition and she'll have to testify. Now, based on what she's already said to the media, based upon what she says every day outside the courthouse, I don't think she's bashful about doing that. But there won't be a Fifth Amendment privilege if she's not, if she can't be prosecuted for the conduct. Double jeopardy would prevent that. So when she's acquitted, in this case, she won't be able to assert the Fifth about what happened. Relates.
Question for Mr. Bederow, Caroline. That's catching on. I don't know if it's me or Nurse Kim. I think it was Nurse Kim. I ripped Nurse Kim. Now everyone's using it too. Echo chamber. Do you think Hank will respect closing statements and not object?
Probably not. But I mean, generally, you don't object. That's true. But I have. I mean, if lawyers have a reason that they have to object, you do it. I mean, if it's a close call, you probably don't. But if you need to protect your side's rights, or the other lawyer is stepping out of bounds, lecturing on the law, saying something that's not in evidence, vouching for the credibility of witnesses, doing all these no-nos in summation, then you object. So usually you wouldn't do that, but I don't think you can say before it's ever happened whether he should or shouldn't. I wouldn't be offended if he objected and there was a reason to. And, the same for the other side as well.
Kirby says, Mark, do you think Lally did a better job at confusing the jury in the first trial? Lally called lots of witnesses and none of them saw her body and denied everything.
Look, Brennan is a much better attorney than Lally. He's much more or much less likable than Lally. But it is fascinating that you are on the cusp of Lally somehow hanging the jury, at least on one count, and Brennan losing on all three. And, I guess to a lot of people, well, that means he's a better lawyer. I don't see it that way. I think Brennan has made some really questionable strategic calls with the witnesses that he called, the decisions that he made. I mean, Lally's an interesting character. When he did it, he just made the donuts. He gave an opening statement and he said, this witness is going to say this. This one's going to say this. This one's going to say this. And then an hour later, he said, there we go. And, and then what did he do? He called them one at a time and asked them all the same questions. And some people say, well, maybe he's crazy as a fox and just bored everyone to death and put them to sleep and you can't remember. I mean, look, Brendan is much more experienced, and whether you like him or not, he is better at this than Lally. I don't know why Lally is there, to be honest with you. There was a video going around today where he appeared to be sitting at the table playing with paper clips. That's kind of sad, whatever. But I don't, if Karen gets acquitted, I'm not prepared to say that, Lally did a better job. Let's also recognize that, and I told you this, and a lot of people disagreed with this, and that's okay, that a retrial was going to favor the defense.
You'd say that.
The reason why is because they're better lawyers, okay? They're going to adjust. They're not so stubborn that they're not willing to change up, that they're just better lawyers. And when you give better lawyers a chance to reevaluate, recharge, they're going to do it. They brought in Bob, which was, a huge asset as well, to do the experts and really free up Alan to do a lot of the other stuff without that extra burden. I think I'm not going to sit here and say that means Lally's a better lawyer if she gets acquitted.
No, no, and better defense witnesses too.
Yeah,
I mean, some of them are the same, but they've added some, like that doctor today. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I think they tried a better case, but that's because they were able to evaluate the first one. And I'm very surprised that a lot of the pundits, many lawyers, by the way, who thought I was crazy, said, oh, a retrial always favors the prosecution.
Yeah, we did hear that. We did hear a lot of that against what you were saying.
A lot of times that can be true, but this is a flawed case.
Exactly.
And she has really good lawyers, and those flaws don't disappear, right? They don't just go away. So, no, I'm not ready to say Lally is a better lawyer than Brennan. And you have to address it on the skills, not the ethics, not the personality. He is a good lawyer. I mean, he's
got some skill.
He does. I think he's made a lot of terrible mistakes in this case. I think he's done some shady things. That's my view. It's my opinion. I'm sticking to it, entitled to it. I think some of his redirects have been bad. I think some of his crosses have not been good. But, a lot of it, though, is that it's kind of a shit case. And I don't understand why, just because they brought in a better prosecutor, that everybody thought it would just be better for that reason. Now, I think he made a lot of decisions to dig deeper than Lally ever dug. That's true. And maybe that helped them. And maybe it does help them. The verdict hasn't come in, but I just don't see it.
Chad Smith says, Mr. Bederow, do you think the defense didn't say anything about the x-rays to Welcher on purpose because they knew he was coming back on rebuttal?
No, I don't. Well, I don't know. It's risky if that's what they did, because it is rebuttal and you have to wait for the argument that's coming depending on what Welcher says and what he's specifically rebutting. Okay. So, for example, I don't believe the x-rays were used with Dr. Wolf. There's no reason that they would be, I don't believe, unless I'm wrong, or a lack of x-rays. He's not rebutting La Posada. So her use of the x-rays, he's rebutting Dr. Wolf, really, right? It really depends. I would bring it up earlier and I'd want to know what the story is. But if they can get it in the rebuttal case on cross, then I think, yeah, it's a master move. Because on the other hand, I don't know why you would hold that, because he testifies on direct. Oh, there's no x-rays in this opinion. And, you could have crossed him and set him up for 10 minutes talking about you had all these x-rays, but you didn't get this. And that would have been an important one, the most important one. I mean, your only experiment was related to the arm. You did this. I mean, you build them up and then say, you never saw this. And you know what I mean? So I don't know what the benefit would be to hold it to now.
I had a good question about younger jurors. A lot of questions about younger jurors. I love this one. YouTube Ev9 says, are we supposed to believe that the young jurors don't look at social media and see this stuff? I have a feeling that they'd be more likely to look at social media, and YouTube being a younger jury. I also have a question follow up on that, Mark, is let's say that the prosecution somehow finds out that some jurors were watching some of the shows or were watching Twitter or TikTok or whatever it is, right? Let's say they find out somehow, because I just have a feeling, could they, and let's say Karen's acquitted, not guilty. Would that help them at all to get like a retrial? Is that something that, or she's free at that point?
So if she's acquitted, no backsies. Right? It's over. It doesn't matter what you learn after. Okay. If she's acquitted, they could find a recorded interview of her a day later confessing to murder. Sucks for you. It's over. Now, if they found anything, if anything like that was happening now, well, now you're in the shitstorm, right? You'd have to obviously address it with the juror. that juror almost certainly would be gone. The real issue would be whether they metastasized it to other jurors by talking, sharing. And, if it did metastasize or spread too far, you could potentially screw up the whole thing and you lose a jury and you have a mistrial not caused by the misconduct of the prosecution, which means you could have a brand new trial.
I'm going to knock on wood, because please don't do that. Because I think, man.
Well, here's
it's a younger juror. Do you think it's more likely that they are looking at it? What do you think? How often does that happen?
Well, I don't know how often it happens, but if you're saying how often do younger people look at their phones, I would tell you every waking moment. And here's the problem. If they can't stay off Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever,
that's a big one.
Well, it's big because you know how it is. I mean, Big Brother is listening. I mean, you could be talking about something in the presence of your phone, and you check your phone 5 minutes later, and you're getting ads or posts related to that. I mean, you could be talking about, I need to go buy toilet paper, and next thing you know, you're scrolling on your phone, and you're getting posts.
I'm an ad.
Charmin.
Yeah.
So my point, not toilet paper. The real point is.
Do you ever see that when you don't even post or don't even search? Sometimes you're talking to a relative or something.
The microphones pick it up.
They're listening. They're freaking listening.
You're in Massachusetts. In fact, you're in Dedham, and you do a simple scroll. The chances of somebody talking about Karen Reed are 99%. Maybe not 99, but you know what I mean. So there's risk, and they're not sequestered. Their devices are not, as far as I know, being taken, and they go home. If you turn on the TV, even if you don't, you're trying to follow the rules, you put on the TV, you see a story about, bombshell testimony today in the Karen Reed case, or it's everywhere, right? I mean, so they're told not to do it. They're asked every morning, have they? They have yet to say they are. I mean, look, hopefully they're not doing it. You don't want the trial getting messed up on either side. They're not supposed to do it. And any lawyer is going to tell you they shouldn't be doing it. I mean, I've seen some funny posts, or I hope they're looking. I hope they're doing this. I mean, I'm not going to agree with that. All you're doing is potentially jeopardizing.
That's what I'm saying. And I don't want to jeopardize. Part of me wishes they were, but deep down, when you think about something like that, they could just jeopardize this whole trial. No way. I don't want them to risk that. No way.
The problem is, the first trial and before the second trial, where none of these people was thinking I'm going to be a juror. They could have been they could be watching you every night up until a couple of months ago. They see people in the courtroom, they know who they are, they know all these things. It's not a perfect system. There's no way around that, though. So you just have to kind of deal with that.
With these recent comments from Judge, the jury is fed up, and other things make it seem like the lawyers are dragging out this case. It's Karen life's on the line. The judge didn't say that the jury is fed up in front of the jury. I will say that, but she has made some kind of weird comments.
So this comment, no, it's inappropriate, and I'll tell you why. First of all, it's not in front of the jury, so there's no risk of the jury being prejudiced. So it was a long day yesterday. There was very little jury activity, but I got to tell you something. What was causing the delay yesterday? The defense had to make a mistrial motion because Brennan improperly, whether it was on purpose or not, made an egregious factual error, which he is wont to do many, many times throughout these proceedings, and implied to the jury that there was critical evidence that Dr. Wolf missed and could have impacted the case. They had to make that application. Okay? So that took a lot of time. I'm not faulting them for doing that. They had to do a voir dire on La Posada, which is ridiculous because Brennan asked for it because he's going to preclude this and preclude that. That's not their fault that they had to waste time doing that. They have to request sidebar after sidebar because she gives them these very convoluted or unpredictable rulings. They don't know what they're going to do. So they ask permission from the judge. That's not their fault either. Okay? So for the judge to blame the defense for all these delays because they're vigorously protecting their client's right to a fair trial with the mistrial motion, they're being forced to do a hearing they shouldn't be having to do at all, and are seeking guidance so they don't violate the court's order, is ridiculous to suggest that they were wasting anyone's time and to blame for the delay because it's taking too long. That is not their fault. That's tough cookies, okay? They're not there to make the jury happy. You never want to piss off the jury. That's not what I mean. But their primary goal is to do anything and everything to vigorously protect their client's rights and make sure she gets a fair trial. And that's what they did. So I found her comment on that yesterday extremely inappropriate, to blame the lawyers for that.
Wow. F.R. Smith says, my question when the judge said the jury is fed up was, is the jury fed up with the defense, the Commonwealth, or are you the judge? What do you think, Mark?
I mean, we don't know, obviously, but I mean, look, I don't know what the jury's schedule is, so I don't know if somebody has to get home for childcare or this and that. But if you went every day, now I know apparently their union has everyone in the court turn into a pumpkin at 4 o'clock. Most places it's 5 o'clock, but whatever. Let's call it 4 o'clock. Well, what you could do, I don't know, is work 9 to 4, 5 days a week, barring, any particular reason why somebody can't be there. But you do half days and take days off. Kidding. Take days off all this time. What is that going to do? In the span of a trial that goes over 2 months, that's adding 2, 3, 4 days that you wouldn't be there. I know it's getting to be summer and everybody wants to go to the Cape and go on vacation and do whatever. But look, it is what it is. Okay. They're there to do it. The other thing I can't stand with this is we're only hearing about this agitation during the defense case. You didn't hear about this during the prosecution case. Okay. Now, to Brennan's credit, he really trimmed the fat on the prosecution case. I think there were certain witnesses he should have called, but he did trim the fat. But nobody was complaining. Now the defense is calling, not that many witnesses, really. They're actually doing a pretty light case, not calling anyone from the house or anything. And we're wasting time for the jury. So, again, certain people are going to perceive this as another example of bias. That's how people see it. Why? I'm not rushing you. I'm not rushing you much longer. You're making a mistrial application and 2 minutes into it, how long will this be? Because lunch is here. Things like that. Those things evince a frustration with the defense that is non-existent with the prosecution. And that, I think, is abundantly obvious to everyone who watches.
Mr. Meathook says, Bederow, how amazed were you, like I was, that Canada allows an acquitted defendant to be retried? Is this something you found out from Runkle? What's going on there? They retry people after acquittal?
That's what he said under certain circumstances. Yeah, I was shocked out of my pants at that.
How does that happen? Like, is it kind of a situation? The judge overrule it, or?
I think they can appeal. The prosecution can appeal. Look, your system's not perfect, but it's still better than anywhere else.
I'm glad we don't have that.
No, there are certain countries that have just horrible legal systems. In certain places in Europe and obviously in other places. But
I thought Canada was well run. I like that they got the health care up there, but I don't know. Who knows? What do I know? Maybe the healthcare isn't that great.
I don't know. I'm experiencing, criminal procedure in a foreign country in Europe right now, and
You are.
it,
Which
it
country?
it's in Europe, and it's shameful just the way the system works in certain things. I'll leave it at that for now. But as bad as you think it is here, it is 1,000 times better than even in many civilized European, long-standing traditional countries. It is 1,000 times better here.
Not surprised by Europe. Europe seems like the land of red tape and too much history over, like, you know what I mean? Just, I could see it being like that, even the developed countries.
Well, I'm thinking of one in particular, and it is appalling.
One less place to travel.
No,
Be careful when you're traveling, people. That's what I always say. Be very careful when you travel. That's never want to be a foreigner on facing charge. Is this a foreigner or are they a native?
No, it doesn't involve anyone.
Not that type of case?
No, it's not that type of case. It's just a terrible, terrible legal system. But anyway.
All right. Norman says, this came up a couple times. Question, can they play the 911 call? Jen saying he was outside 2 hours. What do you think, since that's been the hypothermia and all that stuff's coming up?
Yeah, it's in evidence. So if they want to play it in summation, they can. Of course, they're going to have to pick and choose if it's an hour. But it is a curious statement for somebody who ostensibly knows nothing to make a curious statement like that. So.
But a curious thing. Yeah, nothing to see.
Well, a lot of things that she said are curious. I mean, you forget because it feels like it's so long ago, but that 911 call does have some oddities.
Dubious Dragon has a follow-up question, something we've talked about in the past, something you agreed with. If the worst happens with the behavior of the court and the state, do you think that there is a genuine hope for winning appeal? And can she get a change of venue? And how likely would that actually happen? I know you think that that's what she should do, ask for a change of venue. But how likely is that? Like in terms of not even change of venue, but like changing the judge more than anything else?
Well, it's not likely because who would be considering the motion for recusal would be that judge. In New York, there are certain bases where you could get that application in front of a different judge or an appellate court. I'm not sure how they would do it here, but I think at this point you make the argument. You have to. I think you've seen enough to say that there is a very strong appearance of bias, and that with all due respect, you should step aside, and it's just for the benefit of our client's right to a fair trial, and for basically the whole system and the credibility behind it. Some judges would just step away and say, I don't care. In this case, I don't know that she would do that or not, but Massachusetts has a very strange procedure. So I think if she just says, I'm fine, I'm not doing it, it would in fact be her again if she wanted to do it.
Would you do the change of venue too, which, moving it to a different district? Is that something you would consider?
I don't, your first instinct is yes. Now, interestingly enough, in New York, that motion is made in the appellate division. That is actually above the trial judge. It would go to an appellate panel to talk about a change of venue due to publicity and whatnot. But, everything in this case, don't forget, is upside down. According to the public, overwhelmingly, the good guys in this case are the defense, right? I mean, what would you say politically or just publicity-wise? You get the impression it feels like 80-20, 85-15, she's not guilty, or I support her, or some version of that. So if those are the numbers, why would you seek a change of venue when you are in the lion's den in the hot pit of the people who support her and almost certainly believe, or a lot believe, that our district attorney is incompetent or potentially corrupt. We think the state police here are corrupt. We know the Canton police were incompetent in this case. We know all about Sandra Birchmore, da 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 da. They've been subjected to the media in this case more than anyone else. So normally it's the defense who would say, get me the hell out of here. This case is so upside down that if anybody, I mean, the prosecution would never do it. It would be,
Yeah.
But this case is so upside down that the party that, if they could, that would want the change of venue would be the DA, because they're getting clowned in their own home turf, which just tells you how bad this is.
I think people probably bring this up, change of venue, because they don't trust the court itself, though. Beyond, I mean, I get that juror, the idea on the jurors, like more Norfolk County probably has more sympathetic jurors to Karen Reed, but a lot of people don't trust the court, like even the drawing for the jury.
Well, that may be, but you also have to factor in something else. And I don't know how Massachusetts does this. I mean, it's not something I've ever thought of, so it's not something I studied. But the key question is, if you change venue, does the judge travel or not? Okay. You know, that's an interesting thing. You know, in New York, the judge can travel. So you have to go to a place that at least is away from the media zone, but is at least somewhat similar in, you know, like, I mean, for example, you can't move a case from Manhattan to Oswego, New York, which is in the middle of nowhere, right? Now, Massachusetts is interesting because it's a suburban place, and basically it's all Boston media until you get past Worcester. And I mean, you're probably, you know, Springfield is the only alternative, right? When you get to that kind of stuff, assuming that's even proper. And then today it's very different too, because of social media, because of national news and things. You know, the media market is less important, right? I mean, if you go to Springfield, for example, are you still hearing about this case all the time? Maybe not as much, but all the time. So Massachusetts, I think, is probably a more difficult place to move a trial because all the counties around Boston are essentially the same media market. Same exposure.
Watching the same TV stations. I have a feeling even in Springfield they're watching Channel 5. I mean, you know, but you know, they do have that one network out there. They have one station out there in Springfield, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't think, but I think you just don't want a change of venue. But you probably, and again, I should say probably, there's a good chance you have the judge anyway. So you're better off being there, making a motion if you think it's appropriate, or you soldier on. I mean, look, it's very normal to try criminal cases in front of judges who you just don't see eye to eye on and maybe don't get along with, like some you do, right? They're obviously not in a friendly forum, but you have to soldier on. You have no choice. So you fight the fight wherever they send you. And that's what you do. And that's what they're doing.
Jury hopefully decides correctly in the end. Yeah, that's it. It's up to the jury in the end. What are your thoughts on Dr. L? I don't want to screw up her name. Lapasado. I think I said that right. Lapasado saying to Brennan, the car didn't hit him, so it doesn't matter.
Oof. That's that one will leave a mark, as they say. That was not only was that stuffing him in a locker, but it made one of the central points that the defense has been trying to make and should be making in summation, which is, I am a scientist, okay? In her case, I am a medical doctor, and I basically look at dead bodies and figure out what happened. And I can tell what caused his death, what injuries he had, and I can tell what did not cause his death and what injuries he doesn't have. And I don't need you to tell me, you know, your hypotheticals with this, because it doesn't change what I'm looking at on the body. So I think that was a perfect summary of a larger point for the defense as a whole, Like it's the ARCA stuff. It's the same point. Well, what about all those taillight pieces and you didn't look at the video clips? Yeah, I'm going on science. It's the same. I thought it was, he walked into that and he got punched in the mouth pretty hard, repeatedly, actually, by her. Who would have thought she would have been the strongest defense witness when this case started? I bet you nobody had that on their bingo card.
People were even doubting her when she first started too. We saw some of that, and then she really hit her stride. Sonia says, "How many Springfields are there in the U.S.?"
Everywhere.
I don't know which one was it Springfield, Mass, or Springfield, Illinois, that the Simpsons were. Which
that's actually,
do you even know?
I don't. It might be Missouri, somewhere out there. I think it's supposed to be. It's definitely not Springfield, Mass.
Springfield anywhere.
I could make a joke about Springfield, Mass, but I'm not going to. That wouldn't be nice.
Yeah, no. They got the Basketball Hall of Fame.
They do have the Basketball Hall of Fame. And growing up, they had, right next door, they had Riverside, right? What became Six Flags, whatever, from the day. But yeah, they do have the NBA Hall of Fame or the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Say that I used to, I was a wrestler. One of the tournaments I wrestled was Springfield Invitational. Olympian. Springfield College, Blatnick. So they had an Olympic Greco-Roman wrestler from Springfield. Pretty good guy. I mean, good wrestler. I don't know how good of a guy he was, but he was a good wrestler. Scary.
I'm kidding. Look, where I grew up, you kind of never really went past Worcester or 495.
We're Eastern Mass people. Yeah. We go to Worcester. That's like Western Mass, right? Unless you go to UMass, like when you ever make the trip out to UMass when you're to see your friends. Like, do you have any friends go out there?
I've been out that way once or twice. I think I went to Worcester probably 10 times in my life, and that was to go to a concert at what they used
to say the Centrum, right? The Centrum or the Palladium?
No, it was the Centrum, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what they call it now, and that's the only reason I even ever went to Worcester.
Oh, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Worcester's getting big now, though. Worcester's like...
Yeah, no, it's big.
Definitely up and coming.
I think it was only like 20, 25 minutes away, too. But you went east, not west.
Yeah. So Eastern Mass is where it's at. Bumbleina, for Mr. Bederow, she's found not guilty. What happens to her car that they ruined? Who pays for the damage?
Welcome to bureaucracy. I'm very sorry about the damage to your car and all of that, but I would demand it back. She probably ended up paying the insurance on it for like another couple of years or whatnot. But
what if she's got car payments too?
I don't know about how that works, about what her situation is. But yeah, you want your property back. I had a client who was acquitted in a nice case last year, and she's still fighting with the DA's office about give me my property back. It's bureaucracy at its worst.
Filling out paperwork, calling and asking for your stuff. Heard that happens a lot. It takes a while. And sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't, right?
It's destroyed. Usually the people who complain when they they take a firearm and they basically destroy it. And you're like acquitted, or you think, what happened? Like, oh well, it's just, what? It's one of those things usually most people don't care about. Some people do. I can see her on principle caring and saying, I want it all, and I'm going to get it all and F all you and do it. But, again, she's not acquitted yet. So that's like a thought that shouldn't even be entering her mind.
Cross that bridge when we get there. Yeah. Yeah, right. Let's get her acquitted.
Yep.
Hopefully. Jury slips has come up a lot tonight, too. Hockey, Casey says, what, if anything, can be done to prep the jury slips to have a not guilty option and less confusion?
They need to look at it, and they need to make sure it's done right, and they need to make sure the jury understands how you go top to bottom and what it means if you acquit on count one and then you get to count two and so on. You can't have a repeat of what happened last time. If nothing else, I think everyone would agree that was a fiasco.
We're going to have hopefully Jessica Machado on at 8 p.m. Hopefully, she wasn't feeling that well today, so hopefully she's going to be able to come up tonight. But we're going to be asking her some questions, Mark, about what she's seeing from the jury.
Mm-hmm.
She's sitting watching the Karen retrial because she's been in there quite a bit. Are there any questions that you think we should be asking her, like in terms of reading the jury? I'm just wondering what you would ask her maybe tonight.
Was she there yesterday?
Yes.
I mean, I'd be curious to know what the reaction was when the judge gave that really weak instruction about fixing, the stunt that Brennan pulled. Other than that, I think she knows. I mean, she's really good, like really
Yes,
good
she is.
reporter. I had no idea who she was before this case started, and she's like really good, asked really good questions. Last time I was out there in Massachusetts and we were out there in the press scrum, she was asking some really strong questions, and of all the reporters there, had the best questions. So I think she knows what she observes and can talk about it. But I've been very impressed with a lot of what she's observed, what she saw, what she's written about, and she digs. I mean, it's like old school reporter. It's good to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's uncovered a lot in the
Yeah.
state, like in terms of some corruption going on, and even the way that they've been handling the budgets and the money with these hotels, these migrant shelters, and all this other stuff. It's just
Very
insane.
tenacious and good, really good. I think she's very impressive.
Good. I wrote that down. Reaction to the weak instruction after Brennan pulled his BS. I'm going to be asking her that, definitely. Thank you for that one. What do you think about this one? Does jury get witness testimony transcripts for the deliberations? I understand they could get access, but they have to ask for it. Is that correct?
I mean, we went through this last time, and again, it's Massachusetts. I mean, I'm not obviously an expert on these nuances of Massachusetts procedure. There was this issue of readback. That's what
they read it back. Yeah.
In New York, you would never get transcripts to the jury, but they could ask for readback, and then you would get readback. It's hard for me to believe that they would actually get the transcripts, only because there's things in there that you would have to redact out. Sometimes there's a question that's stricken or an answer that's stricken, and in the transcript it will actually say that. But if it's read, they wouldn't say that, obviously. So they can't possibly. I mean, again, if I'm wrong, someone will tell me. But
I think it's a readback thing. They could ask for a readback, but I don't know if they even know they can. I think that's really kind of the weird thing.
Then that's kind of stupid. They ought to be told. Yeah. Certainly, when they charge a jury in New York, the jury's told. You can't do things and speculate, but if there's a disagreement or you need to hear things, the jury's instructed. You have a go through your foreperson to ask for readback, and the judge will even say, if you want readback, you have to be specific. What witness do you want? Direct? Do you want cross? Do you want direct and cross? Do you want it related to only this? I mean, they're told
piece of info, yeah,
how to do it.
Not something that needs to be part of the jury instructions. The defense maybe should ask for that.
I mean, it's not the kind of thing where it should be a trick, or you only get it if you're smart enough to ask, but you have to know. I mean, that's kind of dumb. And yeah, I would want that in the jury instruction, because again, to me, this is a defense case. You want readback on any of this stuff from anyone, bring it on, because the evidence strongly favors the defense.
That's what's so good about this. They have nothing to hide. The evidence always backs them up. That's the key to this. That's why their experts are so good.
Now, readback could only be testimony, of course. It couldn't be openings and summations and things like that, because that's not evidence.
Excellent. Sure, what to make from this one. How do you think having such hide-the-ball disclosure in 1.0 affected the defense ability to address the case elements first time, and what advantages have come with more evidentiary disclosure?
I don't know. They played the Higgins video that they finally got. They're not calling Higgins, so obviously the impact is less. It's out there, but it's less. They certainly were more prepared to use the Sally Port video, the inverted video, but I think in all fairness, as impactful as that might have been, it's not one of the most memorable things of the trial. It's not as shocking as it might have been. Perhaps if Proctor testified, that it would be more interesting. Who knows? But I mean, I think they've benefited from that, and any disclosure is good. But the reality is they've gone very expert heavy. So the stuff that relates to the civilian witnesses doesn't seem all that important, or at least in the grand scheme, not nearly as important. Their defense is very, very science and expert oriented. So there's very few surprises, I think, that they've used.
This one, Kim S. says, does it hurt the defense when there's an incessant number of objections, strikes, and sidebars during expert testimony?
I think it hurts everyone, including the lawyers, the jurors, the people watching. I mean, one thing I can tell you about both of these trials is how disjointed they are. It's not just the experts, too. But if you watch testimony or you read transcripts, what jumps out is how broken up everything is and how frequently there are either objections and sidebars and just a lack of cadence is between question, answer. I think Brennan actually objects less than Lally, to be honest with you. I think a lot of his objections are annoying and ouch objections and things of that. But I think there's a little more cadence than there might have been the first time. But there were so many interruptions, so many sidebars, so many discussions, so many, I need to see this. So many, like, for example, every single time in this trial, both parties, anytime one of them wants to do anything, they have to ask permission every single time. And over the course of a 2.5-month trial, the amount of time that must have had. I mean, if, many times in my experience, if you want to show a witness a document, you'll say, I'm now showing you what's been, pre-marked defense exhibit A for identification, and, you just say, take a look at this. And you just hand it to the court officer who hands it to the witness, or you say, can I approach? Every single time they do anything, and this is both sides, they need permission from the court. And it really is suffocating in terms of the cadence and taking air out of the room. It happens so much. It takes a lot of time.
To mark this up, let's get this number right, Jim. Blah, blah, blah. It's just like
there's so much just excess discussion that interrupts QA, which creates cadence, movement, interest. It's just the way it is. That's just the way she does it. Maybe that's a Massachusetts thing. I don't know, but there's no flow or very little flow that goes on in these cases. That I've definitely noticed.
This is one. Alina Maria says, what about the fact that Dr. Lapisoda knew Hank Brennan? What do you think about that? That was interesting.
Well, this is a very interesting thing. Everything about this case is crazy. And this is why people hate lawyers. Okay. So Brennan knows her. He's hired her. I guess he corrected Alan. Only 3, right? Not 4 or 5, only 3 times. Talk about reading the room and like missing the point, but that's not the point here either. She gives a really impressive direct, okay? And he's starting on cross. He's getting nowhere. And he's surprisingly calmer with her maybe than with some of the other witnesses. Not 100%, but a little less obnoxious. She is very curt with him. And now in hindsight, you almost get the idea when he says good afternoon and she says it's 6 minutes before noon. And you're laughing because you're like, all right, this is like she's not taking prisoners. But we all knew eventually that he's going to try to use this station fire and that, she had been perhaps unfairly associated with that. And so it comes out, he does his like gaslighting where I want to inform the court I intend to do this and I don't want to ambush and, I want everyone to know. And he basically says, I want to attempt to discredit her with what happened there and show that she was incompetent. She didn't respond. She's saying you're supposed to go to scenes, blah, blah, blah. Then it comes out that he called her as a witness 3 times or hired her 3 times. And you say, wow. So on the one hand, 3 times prior, I would sell her to the jury as a competent, great witness. But today I'm on the other side. So she's just a lying piece of this, right? Now you're allowed to do that. Lawyers, whatever, and someone like Brendan is going to have no problem with that. I mean, he is, he's a mercenary, right? He's getting paid extra to do this. I mean, he's for hire. So it is what it is. The problem is the station fire and all the stuff that he wants to impeach her on occurs in 2003. He almost certainly hired her after that. Okay. And as part of his prep of her, he almost certainly would have asked about, just tell me what happened, and she's retained by him. There's, what lawyers call a Covell letter, K-O-V-E-L-L, which is just extending the privilege to an expert that you hire. And, the expert agrees not to share anything. It's covered under attorney-client privilege. And one would think that the lawyer who's hiring her would say, tell me what happened. I need to know just to make sure it's not a problem. Okay. And he apparently had no problem with that because he presumably was going to use her and call her as a witness. Right. So now he says, I want to cross-examine her about, her conduct related to the station fire and leaving the ME's office and all that. What if he's going to use information that he learned in confidence from her to cross-examine her? And she disagrees. He's potentially made himself a witness. There are confidentiality issues. There are witness advocate issues. And he says, well, don't worry about it. Like, I'm not going to get into that. And we're supposed to take his word for it. Now, what an ethical prosecutor's office probably would have done when they learn that the defense has hired La Posada, they all say, oh, shit. And Brennan tells Lally and McLaughlin and presumably Morrissey, I know her. I've used her. And now, Lally and McLaughlin are there. They're getting paid to be there. And although it's true, on some level, they've been potted plants, and Lally today was like spinning paper clips. The point is the taxpayers are paying them, and Lally can try the case because he did. He did the whole trial by himself. Most ethical prosecutors at that point would have said, we're going to create an ethical screen around La Posada and anything that touches her, meaning Brennan says, you guys deal with her. I don't want to make myself potentially involved, and we're not going to talk about this, okay? And you cross-examine her. That would have been the easiest way to deal with it. As it turns out, he tried to gently go into this. He didn't, no conflicts issues were raised or anything like that. But what happened was she absolutely knocked it out of the park in her responses. And all he did was make her look completely sympathetic, okay, and he had nothing in response to what she said. He had no challenge to it. He's not going to present any evidence challenging it. And she gave perfectly understandable answers. And all he did was take the risk of, like he did with Dr. Russell, here is an accomplished woman who's older, who's been a doctor a long time, maybe from an era where not as many women started out. That's just a fact, right? And she was the chief medical examiner in Rhode Island and all these other cities. And she's really impressive, medically speaking. And all he did was give the impression that I'm challenging you. I did this with Dr. Russell. It's not necessarily a sexist thing. He did it with Dr. Wolf. To some extent, he did it with Lasorga or I'm forgetting their names already.
Lasorga, yeah.
I'm Lasorga. I'm thinking of La Posada, Lasorga.
Yes.
And every single one of them was calm, cool, collected, toes were tapped, never missed a beat, got out what they needed to got out, and were perfect. And, same with Barrows, not a medical witness, but the same thing. Same with Loughran. It's almost like the defense knows how to talk to witnesses about how cross-examination works and is able to discuss, how important it is to maintain demeanor on direct and cross, just like Dr. Welcher did, right? Not really, obviously. And so I think his cross of her, knowing her, it might have kept him a little less
nicer. Yeah.
Duty. I mean, he wasn't as pissy and snivelly as he was with Dr. Wolf. But the impact was he got destroyed by her. He didn't lay a glove on her. And all he really did was make her more likable, more sympathetic, while also bolstering her opinions by having her swat away what he was trying to say was important and her explaining it wasn't and why it wasn't. So, I mean, I think she was bad for the prosecution, like really.
It was one of the best. I think it was the best witness really so far for the defense, and there a lot of good ones. I mean, compared to Arca, we do have Jessica Machado in the green room. I'm going to bring her up. You want to say hi and give us your final thoughts before we let you go?
Sure.
Let's do that. Hey, Jessica, how you doing tonight?
How are you?
Hi, Mike. Hi, Mark.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I was just listening in.
Okay. They said
we're
you're
excited to have you here tonight. It's going to be fun. And we're definitely going to be talking about Aiden, who is Mark's client. So we're going to have to say goodbye to Mark on that. But Mark, do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to share with Jessica before you leave tonight?
Just, watching it today, I was stunned at how good La Posada was. I do think she was the best witness in the trial. I think I've never seen a case where every single medical witness supports the defense, whether they're called by the defense or the prosecution. And to me, the reasonable doubt is overwhelming, and it's going to take a miracle with the jury to get a conviction. Again, juries do juries. We should never predict. But just from an evidentiary standpoint, there was so much reasonable doubt that it's like an ocean you could swim in. It's everywhere.
Everywhere. I can't wait to see how this turns out. We're probably expecting next week is what you were predicted, Mark, right? Maybe next week we might have a verdict.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll finish up this week. The jury will get the case probably Monday or possibly Friday, and then next week, they do whatever they do.
Looking forward to seeing how this ends. I want to thank you so much, Attorney Mark Bederow, Mr. Bederow, for being here again tonight. Very much appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night.
Okay, I'm not going to be there tomorrow, so are you going to be there so I can watch or follow what's happening in the lesser courtroom in Dedham?
Well, you're going, right, Jess?
I'll be there. Yes.
Yeah.
I think tomorrow will be.
So are you following her while she's covering it? Is that what's going on here, Mark? Or do you?
It's that courtroom is not really set up to be as involved as I'd like to be. It just doesn't make sense. You don't need. I mean, look they don't even have places to sit. You don't need two lawyers for what this is. It's a 2-day bench trial, albeit all the other felony ones. But yeah, I want to know what's going on. And I'm watching what you're saying. Basically, is the best they can do for me. But yeah, tomorrow I think will be an interesting day. It should be interesting witnesses. If you know.
We'll be watching Jessica tomorrow. Thank you so much, Attorney Mark Bederow.
Take care. Good
Have a
night.
great night.
Bye bye.
Is that amazing that he's watching you? He's watching you, Jess. What do you think about that? That must be.
Well,
He
I
has
think it's only
great
by
things about you
default.
tonight.
There's nobody else in there. It's just me. So by default, he's watching me, but it's definitely wonderful that he's following along, and everybody is for that matter. Although I think WBZ jumped in yesterday halfway through. So we had another news outlet in there, but everybody's across the street and they're missing what I think is, a very important case.
I'm glad that you're covering it. I'm frustrated because I want to stream it. Like they're not letting us stream it. Apparently, I don't know. Apparently Grant Smith Ellis was able to Zoom it, so I don't know. I'm gonna try to figure out how to Zoom it tomorrow. I don't know. It just sucks that they make it so difficult. Why can't we just broadcast the thing?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it's not exclusive to this case or this courthouse. There are courthouses across the state that I try to gain access to hearings, and they make it very difficult. So it's not just you. It's not just this. It's everywhere across the state. Sure
do. It's just, you'd think they get with 2025. You'd think they would get with the times. But let's start with, because I asked Bederow, I said, what question would you ask Jessica, because she was in the courthouse yesterday, about what's going on with Karen Reed? He said the reaction of the jury to when Bev gave that weak instruction after Brennan pulled his BS. What did you see from the jury? What was their kind of effect? What were they doing when that was going down?
I was not there for that. So yesterday, yesterday was kind of like a. Well, yeah. So I actually didn't go back. I didn't go back after lunch. I wasn't feeling well yesterday. I took today off to rest up. So I was there for only from 10 until 11 yesterday. So 1 hour. And that was it. So I didn't get much out of it. And then by the time I left Aiden's, they were heading to lunch. And that's when I said it was time for me to tap out and head home. So I didn't get to observe that yesterday. Unfortunately, and I'm just catching up on today. I was watching a lot of the interest clips that are floating around, and I can't give any feedback other than I think this is like one of those things that's going to keep Hank up at night for the rest of his life. It's missing that 3-point shot at the buzzer today. It's that, Bill Buckner moment in the World Series. Like, it is like that big of a disaster, I think, from what I've seen. And I think it's gonna linger with him for a very long time.
Now, you've been you have, obviously watched the Karen Reed trial jury more than me, definitely. I've never been in there. The judge made a statement the other day about how the jury seemed, not happy. Who do you think they're not happy with? Do you think it's the judge? Do you think it's Brennan? Do you think it's the defense, or just the whole thing that it's being delayed so much? What would your feeling be on that? Like, why would the jury who would they be mad at, I guess, if you had to guess?
I mean, my take on that is that they're not agitated or annoyed at all. I think that she said that. This is when the defense is going. So I think that's a really interesting time for her to say that. And it gives the impression that they're annoyed. I have never seen them act that way. I've never seen anybody look exasperated. I've never seen them, they come in well rested in the mornings. They come in exceptionally well rested after the weekends and days off, from what I've seen. I've been able to pick up patterns on certain jurors that are just not note takers. They're not going to be writing things down. But then, you see them in moments of interest, like with Dr. Wolf, where they were really interested. In the beginning, we saw a lot more facial reaction to testimony. We saw, a juror roll eyes. We saw, arms crossed. I've seen those behaviors, but I can't at any point say that I feel like, since the defense has taken over, that they're frustrated, unless there is some sort of communication happening when they are removed from the courtroom during these mistrial moments, right? So, let me back up for a second. Last week that she needed, or I don't know what day it was, but she wanted like them moved, and then only for a minute. They had to walk all the way downstairs or wherever, and then they came all the way back up. She apologized to the jury. She said, I'm sorry for the miscommunication. Like, essentially, like, she didn't realize they were going to be out of the room for such a short time, and she didn't realize they were being sent all the way down or whatnot. Like, listen, it's exhausting to be a juror. These people have put their lives on hold. I think overall, what really matters is that they're clear with their communication on where this case is at, and are they on schedule? Are they not on schedule? We've heard every day, you know, for the past week or so, her say, we're on schedule. We're on schedule. We're leaving early last week, or we're cutting out Thursday because of the heat, because we're ahead of schedule. So if you're a juror and that's the truth, then you must be feeling like, okay, I feel like everybody's handling this responsibly, and, you know, they're doing everything right, and we're almost at the end. So I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was some grandstanding from Canoni. I just have not seen it.
Glad you said that. That's a great. What I wasn't thinking that. Like, it makes sense that she's projecting. She's projecting.
Yes,
She's
projecting.
frustrated, so
Yeah.
she's projecting on the jury. Totally makes sense. That's such a great observation. Thank you for that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Aiden Carney, because you were there, and none of us saw it. What is going on with his court case in this trial? Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, I think where we can start is to let everybody know exactly what this case is. This is a violation of a harassment protection order or a restraining order. A restraining order, I guess, is when you're in a relationship where you know the person. HPO is for someone that you, like my grant has an HPO, that situation. So this is a violation of that. And it is all related to the day that Aiden, after he was released from jail, the very next court appearance that Karen Reed had, Aiden went to that court hearing. And so this incident and this violation or purported violation is directly related to that day. And so that's where we're at. We've gone all the way to the point where now there is a trial over this alleged violation. I don't know the exact specifics, but obviously if he gets found guilty of this, this could be a violation of his parole. I mean, I'm not really sure in regards to the other case, but you know, so this was started with Ken Mello, as you all know, and now Cosgrove has taken over. And here we are, we're finally at this point, and we finally get the hearing. We started off on Monday with a 9 a.m. call time, and they just talked right out of the gate about Paul O'Keefe. So for those of you who have been following this, Paul O'Keefe, the brother of John O'Keefe, is being called as a witness in this case. There is a theory by the defense that Paul O'Keefe was involved in a conspiracy to get Aiden Carney to violate his bail. And, you know, the defense has called him as a witness. Paul O'Keefe filed a motion to quash his testimony in this case. His attorney was there to be heard on that motion, and it was denied by the judge. And so the only thing that the judge hasn't made a ruling on is what text messages from Paul O'Keefe will be admitted. And the judge said he was going to handle that on Wednesday. So for a scheduling point of view, this case took place at 9 a.m. for that hearing, so that judge could hear that motion. And then they did a further call. They said they were going to do this case from 11 to 1. That's exactly what we did. Nothing today. And then we're going back tomorrow starting at 11. And we're going to go straight until 4 o'clock if it takes that much. And then Attorney Bederow said that we should be done at 4 o'clock and we should have, you know, some sort of ruling on this. It's a bench trial, obviously. I think that was strategic in relation to Judge Pomeroy or whatever, however you say his name. Like Attorney Bredel said, I interviewed him afterwards. He said, you know, he's a consumer of this case, which I love that language. He's a consumer of it. He is familiar with it. And, you know, I guess they like their chances that, you know, he understands this case. There were really a lot of great moments in yesterday that I think are important. I'll get to those, but that's kind of where we're at right now from a scheduling perspective. That's how it started. And then the afternoon obviously had its own things happen.
They had some witnesses after they kind of discussed about Paul O'Keefe. Is Paul O'Keefe is he gonna be a witness tomorrow? Like, what's up with that?
Yes. He
Yep.
is, yeah. So the judge basically asked his attorney to try to argue, why do you think that he would not be able to be called in this? Nothing for nothing. I'm not an attorney, but I don't think the attorney did a very good job of arguing that point. I will say that part of his argument was Paul O'Keefe is a victim in the trial of Karen Reed right across the street, is what he said. And he said that since this trial has started, that this has been 24/7, a full-time job for Paul O'Keefe to be across the street. I know a lot of people are constantly in the comments of, dozens of posts and saying, what does Paul O'Keefe do where he can be there every day? I'm not sure anybody really knows that, but his attorney did say that this has been his life 24/7 and that he is a victim in this case. And that's where he really wants to be and where he belongs. But the judge, could see, listen, for you to come over here and testify, it's not going to take all day. He didn't say that, but I think that's the general consensus, that this was going to be a swift trial, and it's certainly not going to interfere too much with this whole thing, especially with the timing of where Karen's case is at right now. So I'm not sure how that's going to work specifically tomorrow, but so we can expect Paul O'Keefe will be a witness in this case. Just haven't heard about what text messages or things are going to be allowed. But we'll have Paul O'Keefe in the Dedham courthouse right across the street tomorrow.
It's close to Karen Reed, so he can go back and forth. It's not like it's not like he's going to miss hours and hours. It's,
Listen, this is
slight
a really,
inconvenience.
Lindsay Gattani brought him into this case. She
That's right.
testified previously in this case by saying that she was invited to go to the courthouse on the day that this alleged violation occurred by Paul O'Keefe. And that is unfortunately the reason why Paul O'Keefe is going to be called to testify tomorrow. So if he's unhappy with that, he should, reflect on his, partnership with Lindsay Gattani. Yeah. I mean,
right.
I believe very much after seeing, evidence in this case and hearing, the full picture, I 100% believe that he, worked with Lindsay Gattani to get her there and to get this violation and to put him in jail. I have absolutely no doubt of that, actually. I'm willing to put my name on the line for that. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's such a misuse of the system. Lindsay Gattani is a perpetual abuser of harassment prevention orders and restraining orders. It is not, and we can talk about that because Attorney Bederow actually asked the judge to allow a video of Lindsay Gattani to be entered into evidence in this case, and he is going to allow it. So this is the video that I posted. So this is the video. I posted it, and then it's kind of made its rounds. But this is when Lindsay Gattani, who had a restraining order against the father of her children, essentially got in the front seat of his vehicle in a parking lot. She essentially solicited him to get there, made it all out like everything was okay. We've seen the video. If you haven't,
Horrible.
it's a must watch.
I feel bad for that guy. He looks abused.
Listen. I'm going to tell you something.
Apparently, he's like a gangster type guy, and it's like she's like abusing the gangster. I allegedly. I'm not saying he is, but like he's gotten into some trouble. Let's put it that way.
For sure. And there's no judgment on her and her past or him in his past. What I'm talking about is, if you are truly scared of an individual, you would never meet him in a parking lot. If you were truly scared of an individual, you would never get in the front seat of his car and get into a fight or an argument with him. You would never do those things. It actually goes against everything that you probably said to get the order to begin with. And my experience with restraining orders and HPOs, I've seen them abused. I've seen them misused. And then when there are people that really need them, like myself, for example, you have to hope that the judge hasn't had a saturation of people like Lindsay Gattani showing up and just ruining it for everybody. So this video, which we've seen, and I'll try to dig it out, or I'm sure one of your followers can post it in the comments, but this video is going to be allowed. And essentially what he's saying is, this shows a pattern of misuse of this. and that Lindsay has actually used the power of this paper to put men in jail. I've done research on Lindsay Gattani's cases. I know that she had a restraining order against her own father. She has had restraining orders on other men in her relationships that she's had. It's endless. She understands the power that they have, and the people associated with the Commonwealth in the case against Karen Read also understand the power that it has, and it was undoubtedly used to try to get him put back in jail.
Yes, definitely. If you haven't seen that video, people should definitely watch that video. It's so definitive what's going on. I feel really bad for that guy, Frank. Like what she did to him in that video. I don't know much about him beyond that. Like I said, I know he's caught some charges in the past, but geez, it's just not fair.
Well, you can hear it. You can hear the tone in his voice. And, you know, he most certainly started off that interaction with her, like thinking there was no chance that this would happen. And you can hear his voice. He's like, you know, here come the cops, Lindsay. He knows the cops are coming because she called him. And that's it. He went to jail. It's crazy. And I think what a win for Bredel, that this was heard by the judge and he's going to allow it. Yeah. I mean, I asked him about that after court and I said, you know, that's a win. And you know, he was being modest about it and saying, you know, I want to withhold, you know, my reaction to that until we actually talk about it in trial. But for me, I mean, number one, I didn't know that he was going to be asking for that to be admitted. By the way, just to let people know, I don't know anything about this case. I don't ask. I like to be a observer in the moment. And so I don't know anything other than when it's happening. So I was very excited to see him ask for that. I was thrilled to see the judge say yes to it. I know that Bredel will be skillful enough to kind of just use it for exactly what it is, which is, you know, let me show you what she has done before to another man that she has had a relationship with and see how it is adjacent to what she is doing with Aiden. Unfortunately, though, with a much bigger, you know, team behind her this time around.
Bredel is very skilled, great guy. I love Tim Bredel. I'm such a Tim Bredel fan. So I'm very happy to hear that he got that admitted. I actually have the interview where you talked to him on the sidewalk. Definitely going to play that to end the show tonight so people get a taste of that. Tell us about like that first day when you went into court yesterday. Were there actual witnesses? Was there witness testimony? I heard there were a couple witnesses, I believe, right?
Yeah, and to talk a little bit about what Attorney Bederow said, this is a very old courtroom, although it is more modern than across the street at Norfolk Superior. But it's not by much. It's just an older, I don't know. It's old. It's dark. There's no windows in this courtroom. There's room for people to come in, and it was full. Every single seat was full with supporters of Aiden. You know, they were asked to squeeze together to fit people in. And he was also correct about this. There isn't really even a space for the attorneys. There is a podium almost like within 5 feet of walking in the door, and that is where the witness has to normally stand. And so it's just a very weird configuration. Actually, Attorney Bredel asked if he has a seat at the table, but Aiden had to sit behind him and his paralegal had to sit behind him as well. So he actually asked for accommodations, which the judge allowed, but it's not really a great space to have a team. It's nothing. If the Karen Read courtroom is small, this one is even smaller and weirder. So the Commonwealth started off with their opening statements, and, you know, Cosgrove is, with much respect because he is a judge, very slow. I don't think he did a very good job of painting a picture of exactly what happened here. I mean, he talked a little bit about a violation of this order, but it just really fell flat. I actually expected more from him considering how much time he has had. And then Bredel came up and gave his opening statement. Not an easy job, because how do you tell this tale? It's so fucked up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, this is a guy who wrote about a murder case and he had a girlfriend, and the girlfriend turned against him and she conspired with the people of the family. It's like, how do you do that and not sound crazy, tabloidish or whatever, and also still paint the picture of your client not having done anything wrong. So I think he did a really great job. I was definitely following along. I got it. If you don't have any backstory, I don't know, maybe it's hard for you to figure out what's going on here because it's crazy. And so I think he did a great job. Commonwealth calls its first witness. It is a court officer from across the street. A very surreal moment for someone like me and anybody else who's watched the Karen Reed trial inside the courtroom. These are people that are actually in the Karen Reed trial. So court officers in the Karen Reed trial are being called as witnesses in this trial. This is actually a very nice court officer. I've seen him plenty of times. And he gets called. First thing we find out that he had actually only been contacted by the Commonwealth just a couple of months ago for his testimony on something that he needed to remember from over a year ago, which was a very big aha moment. I don't even know if I captured it properly when I was tweeting because I was like, did I hear that right? Like, you've had over a year for this case and you are just now saying that you just reached out to this guy. It gets better. The second court
This
officer.
sounds like the Karen Reed trial. I mean, this is what they did with a lot of the witnesses in Karen Reed too. Just say like Lucky, like
Yes,
Aiden talked to
yes.
Lucky before the FBI and Aiden talked to Lucky before the prosecutors.
Yes.
I mean, it's just over and over again.
The second witness was another court officer, and she's a queen that is in there all the time. It's worse for her. They contacted her last week for the first time. First time last
They're
week.
really taking this seriously. They're really taking this seriously.
Her attitude showed.
Joke.
She seemed like she did not want to be there. You know, I would say she was a little curt with Bederow. Not Bederow, geez, Bredel. But I'll be honest with you, my interpretation of it is she was like, I don't want to fucking be here. She's not lending anything to this conversation. She was essentially asked to walk Lindsay Gattani upstairs on this day in case Aiden was around her. That was it. And once she brought her into the courtroom, she belonged to the court and that was it. I don't think she gave anything. At one point, the judge actually called a sidebar on his own and you could tell what he was saying. And I'm very careful not to say exactly, but it was in essence like, move it the fuck along. Okay. Like, I don't know what you're doing here, but like, this is a small little case. It should not be drawn out like this. Neither of these two people lent anything to the conversation. Maybe painted a picture about what the court, Mike, we saw pictures of like the inside of the courthouse from, I don't even understand. Anyway, so that's basically what they contributed. Our third witness was, I did not know who this was. It was Matt McCabe's sister. And I gotta say, so she recorded. So she was with Lindsay that day when they were leaving the courthouse, and she recorded her own video leaving the courthouse. And she says that it was because of what happened on the way into the courthouse that she recorded. This was an exceptionally frenzied day outside. I don't know if any of your viewers were there on this particular day. There were hundreds of people there. It was a very busy, loud day. There was no buffer zone. So people were on steps, on sidewalk. I was there that day. And I remember it very well. It was a frenzy. And also, like, you know, you can hear it in her video, which was played in court. There's a lot of yelling at the family as they were walking out. A lot of people swearing and saying, you know, mean shit to these people, you know, cop killers, yelling, all this stuff like that. So she's recording, but as the video's recording, Matt McCabe's sister, I think Manon is her last name, she's like turned and looking at the audience in the courtroom. And I found that to be so bold. Like, she had her hand on her hip and she was like looking back at people, like almost like, look what you people have done. Look what you guys done to us. Thought it was pretty bold of her to have those kinds of mannerisms in this courtroom. Certainly wasn't getting any sympathy from anybody the way that she was, you know, looking around the room. And there were a couple moments in her testimony where she, you know, the attitude showed. She said, you know, these people, you know, so it got some snickers from the audience and stuff like that. So I don't think we're even finished with her. Cosgrove had to end because it was 1 o'clock. But essentially, the other moment that really kind of got a little buzz from the public was she said that Aiden was hiding behind a tree. And I think Bredel objected to that. It got sustained. and, you know, had to remove the hiding behind the tree. I mean, essentially, for those who haven't followed this is very simple. Aiden was in the court. I actually, Mike, I'll be honest with you. I wish in the moment they had called me to testify, because I was there. I saw the whole thing. I was like, why do we need court officers? Jessica Machado saw the whole thing. Listen, Aiden was there. He had just gotten out of jail just a couple of days before. And he's going to go back to doing exactly what he did before, which was cover the Karen retrace case. Tim Bradel said it best. He said he was going back to work. And that's 100% what he was doing. He was going back to work. Lindsay Gattani had never been to these hearings before. She had not been to them since. On the days where Aiden says he wasn't going to court, Lindsay wasn't there. But on the days where he said he was going, Lindsay would show up. And so
he even tested that. He tested it to make, you know, to show that that's what they were doing.
And so he's, you know, again, he's free. And I remember seeing him on that day and him finally getting into the courtroom. And I think he actually knew that this was going to happen. Listen, she walked right into the courtroom holding the paper. I'm talking from the time she walked in the courtroom until the time that Aiden stood up was maybe a second. It was almost instant. He saw her and stood up. He was out the door in 3 seconds.
He was out the door. That should count for something. He left. And he didn't know she was coming.
Cosgrove did say exactly that. And he said he did the right thing. And the right thing was he got up and he left. They actually played video of it. Fox News was broadcasting that day. So you can see him getting up and leaving. And he did the right thing. And then we haven't heard the case yet, but we're going to hear and see video that he asked an officer, where should I go? What's a safe spot for me to go? And he was instructed to go stand over there. And that's where he went. We're going to hear about the police call saying that there was damage done to Lindsay's car, and the police come and they take a report. And at no time did she say, hey, 5 minutes ago, this guy, you know, violated the order. Never. It was after the fact. I can't remember. There was no direct contact, no indirect contact. And I think he said it was fabricated contact, or, you know, like she made it up. Like that was the kind of contact. It didn't exist. So, you know, I don't know what kind of a case the Commonwealth has here, knowing all of the things we have, knowing evidence. The police officers that spoke with him that day when he was crossing the street were there yesterday getting ready to testify. They'll be there again tomorrow. I've already heard them testify in, I believe it was a dangerousness or something about this already. And it's like very clear, like where they're at with this. So Cosgrove's got his work cut out for him. I give him a lot of credit. I mean, who doesn't wish it was Mello, though? I would have loved to see Mello navigate through this. I really feel like we got gypped on this, to be quite frank with you.
Yes.
I want
Remember
my
they said
money back.
Mello wasn't much longer for this earth, is what Cosgrove said. He's still kicking around, isn't he? He didn't.
He is. I'm not laughing at that. I'm just laughing at
Mello. Yeah. You actually
just
know Mello. He's from your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, he lives just a mile up the street from me. I have heard that he's not doing well, but he's still around. So whether or not he could have done this or not. But I mean, after everything we've heard, after him conspiring with Lindsay, after we know the text messages between them the day of the infamous, you know, Christmas Eve type situation, or the day before, whatever, like knowing all of those things, I mean, we deserved Mello here. You know, we deserved more. I mean, what did we pay him? $88,000. Like, I did not get my money's worth out of this.
He made out. He made out.
Yeah.
This guy made out.
Yeah.
Mello made out. No doubt. Poor Cosgrove. Cosgrove's getting ripped off because he's got to actually try the case now. How's this judge? How do you think the judge is doing? Like, does the judge seem receptive and open to what the facts that are coming out here?
I would, I'd bet the house that this is going to be a not guilty. I think he was absolutely bored out of his mind. I've seen him before, so I have seen him interested and paying attention, and I saw him looking around the room and sort of checked out during some of this testimony. If you're going to call these two court officers, you just needed to ask like 2 questions. He dragged this out over an hour. There was just no need for it. I think this judge has really shown that he he gets this case, and you better show me some evidence here that this was a deliberate violation of this restraining order. And if you can't, like, we're wasting our time here. This judge, I think, gets it. Again, we can't predict what they're going to say or what they're going to do. But if I were a betting girl, which I am sometimes, especially on my FanDuel app, I would say that he's not going to see anything here that would ever lend, that this guy didn't do anything other than honestly protect himself from Lindsay Gattani. That's what I think he did. He protected himself from someone that put him already in jail once. You know what I mean? Like, I think people are forgetting that. Like, I understand, like, people might not know, but this guy had just served 60 days because of this cunt. Like, he is not going to be around her, and he doesn't want to be around her. He knows what she's capable of. Maybe at that point he didn't even have the full scope of what she was capable of, but he definitely, like, got it. He wasn't there to fuck around. He went there, she showed up, he knows how it works. He left. He wasn't going back to jail again. And, like, I don't understand why anybody would believe that he would try anything. Like, what purpose would it serve? I think what we're going to see from Tim is that he really understands the timeline. He really is going to be succinct with his facts, and we are going to see him lay out exactly what happened. And that would be enough reasonable doubt for me to say that this was not an incidental or accidental or even deliberate contact. It was cultivated to try to get him back in jail, to get him away from this case. Think about it. They've also tried to get him out of the courtroom with some of these witnesses and not even be able to be there. I mean, the amount of effort that is being put in to snuff out Aidan Kearney during the Karen Read trial is pretty extensive. It's one for the history books for sure. And it's really, like, you know, I do love the Karen Read case, and I believe in everything that is being fought for here, which is justice for John and justice for Karen. But I'm truly fascinated with the cases against Aiden and how it is really like a total abuse of law and policing and court orders. And honestly, like, it's that kind of behavior that really breeds the behavior of, like, the investigation around John O'Keefe's death. It is, like, it is so deep, and that thread is woven through all of these things. Like, how can you turn your eye away from the Carney cases in any way? I get maybe people don't want to miss anything with Karen, but this is very, very important what's happening.
I feel like it means more for people like you and I, because we know that we could be next. Like, if we write the wrong thing or say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's why, to me, I don't get why every media person, every journalist in the state isn't, like, even the activists and advocates, and I would think everybody would be supporting Aiden on this and showing up, because not just the people who are into the Karen Read case, though. You know what I mean? Like, everybody, because this is a slippery slope. If they're able to get away with this with Aiden, they're going to do it to other people, you know? So...
Well, I think there's still a stigma associated with him, and I think he's still going to be needing the validation from a not guilty verdict from Karen's case to really kind of catapult him into the stratosphere that he belongs. And so we have to wait, I think, a little bit more. I mean, I've been watching him and his work for so many years, and to all of the haters prior to him writing a story about me. And, you know, it's a slow go for him to get that, you know. Listen, everybody who hates Aiden publicly really likes him privately. It's like people voting for Trump, Mike. Sorry to bring up politics, but you know Dems voted for that guy in the voting booth, right? They were so over what Joe Biden was about and Kamala Harris. You know they voted for him in the booth. How else would he have won, you know? So I think people, like, secretly are rooting for him, but whether he gets the public backing or not, I mean, listen, these are big media outlets. They can afford two people to come and cover the Karen Read trial and Aiden's trial. They didn't send anybody. It's almost like kind of like a big FU to him. You know what I mean? It's like, we don't even think you're good enough to send somebody over. But the joke's on them. I mean, this case is going to go away.
I gotta say,
and
that bugs me right there, because they're making money off of his work. Like, that's why for me, I feel like it would be so disrespectful not to give him the props and the coverage and the love, because I wouldn't be covering this without Aiden. And it just
I
pisses me
agree.
off that these major corporations, these talking heads, they won't give them any type of props, but they'll cover it. They'll make their bones. They'll get their Emmys. They'll get their salary and all the
Right.
eyeballs and all the attention based on what he started. So it kind of I think it's ridiculous. I don't get it.
I agree with you, Mike. And I think the hardest part about working this trial and the last trial is you become friendly with some of these reporters or commentators from mainstream media, and they're likable people. I like Sue.
I love Sue.
I like
I do.
Ted. I like Christina. I just really don't like what their companies stand for. And so it's been a struggle for me because as people, I think they're swell. But man, like there's just a lot of stuff in regards to this case that mainstream media has done him dirty on for sure. And Karen, by the way, don't forget that.
That Aiden and Karen remember them after the fact, because I have a feeling a lot of those networks are going to come crawling back and be like, "Oh, please," because I think this is going to turn out good for them. I do. I have a lot of optimism right now. Any thoughts on like if Lindsay is going to be called as a witness? Is Aiden going to testify? Have you heard anything about it? Any indication of it?
So I don't know. I know Lindsay was there yesterday. She wasn't in the courtroom, but she was at the courthouse. I would suspect Lindsay will be called. I don't see how you can't. And I don't know about Aiden. I could have asked him that. Again, I kind of like to just freeball it. I don't want any info. I want to just be like very like virgin ears when it comes to everything so that I don't have like a sway either way. You know what I mean? I very rarely like get the inside scoop on the Karen Reed trial either. I like to really just kind of go in like blind and just be surprised. And, so I don't know, but I mean, again, for me, I'm thinking about this all day today. Tomorrow's it, it's not going, we know there's an end game. We know it's tomorrow. I can't see it going past that. I can't see the judge letting it go past that. He wants this to be done. And Bredow's ready. He's really ready. We are all, and I'm going to use the word consumers of these trials. You're live streaming Karen Reed. We're talking Karen Reed every day, right? I think everybody thinks they're attorneys, when it comes to this, to all of this, or we all are, or we're TikTok attorneys, right? Watching Bredel yesterday again, I appreciate what a great attorney he is. And I think it speaks volumes that he's loyal to his client. This has been going on for several years. These are very difficult cases to navigate through. And listen, I've had an attorney in the past. I've spoken with attorneys on my own personal cases. It's really hard for somebody to commit mentally to like a case like this. I had a case like this personally, and I couldn't find an attorney that like understood the dynamics and the motives and like to explain it was like politically motivated. And people were just like, absolutely not, I'm not doing this. It's hard. And so Aiden's really lucky that he's got a guy that like really likes him, really works hard for him, really understands. And he's also got a team too. I mean, his paralegal that's there is smart as a whip. She knows
Courtney
everything
Haley.
about the case.
Love Courtney. I am big Courtney Haley fan. And
I don't know
Bederow
if I
and
should mention
Bredel.
her
I love
name
all
or
of
not,
them.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
they are the
Courtney's
best.
amazing. Yeah, he's so lucky to have this team and also the consistency of the same team. You know what I mean? Like to stick
Yeah.
with them through it all. And it's really great for him that he has, somebody like him that is doing this great job. And then obviously Bederow as well now. I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, he's lucky.
Man, he really is. I hope people recognize that. This whole team, Bredel,
Yeah.
Bederow, Courtney. I give them so much props for what they're doing. Yeah, someone just posted that they said that Aiden has said he will be testifying, which that would be interesting. I have a feeling that could happen. Hope it gets recorded. You said there was a video camera in the courtroom. But then you found out it was a documentary. Do you have any idea who's filming that? Like, who's the documentary? Is it like an England one? Is it an American? Or no? You have no idea? Not a local?
I don't. I actually had a moment where, so Aiden had all his fans standing out waiting to get into the courtroom, and they don't love that over there. You know what I mean? I'm just going to say it's disruptive and it's loud, and with more people brings more things. Even just walking through the metal detectors, it's like, it's arduous to get people to go back and forth, whatever. And, I checked in early in the morning. I showed my press pass. And then I also asked for permission from the chief there to take photos, still photos. I didn't see a pool camera at first. When we came back the second time around, I was asking, can I get in there? And I just want a space and set up. And it's hard to work in that space. And the court officer wasn't letting me in. And then a few seconds later, I see a guy with the camera go in, and I went, well, why can't I go in? And he's like, ma'am, stay out there. And I was like, I should be able to go in if he's going in. And he's like, ma'am, stay out here. I'm going to go talk. And then as he's going to talk to the chief, I see the chief wave me in, and he's like, come on in. So I open the door, and the guy turns around and he goes, no, out. And I said, no, the chief just said, like, go in. And he's like, go stand outside. So then I was like very angry. And a few seconds later, he comes out. He goes, okay, Miss Media, you can go on in. And I went, great, thanks. And as I walked past, I was like, it's Machado, and went in and took my seat. So on my way out, I apologized to him. I said, listen, I'm a grunt and I'm not mainstream media. And I've seen many times they all get things over me, not just here or Karen's case, but other places. I feel like I got to scrap for what is mine. You know what I mean? So I was very defensive. And also, like, I'm suspicious. I feel like, courthouses try to snuff out the information that they don't want out there. I've seen it happen. Literally last week, we had a migrant rape his 8-year-old daughter, or allegedly rape his 8-year-old daughter, and you can't get the court docket. It's impounded, but the court docket should still be available, so we know when the hearings are, so we can go attend in public. They cut off the volume on Zoom, like, they hide things. So to me, I'm going, not everybody likes Aiden, so maybe they aren't going to let the press in there, and watch me be sitting out here while the whole thing goes underway and I can't get in. So I'm hyper suspicious, and I want to just fight for my right to, right, I guess. I don't know. So I was annoyed. But to answer your question, he wasn't a press after all. I said to him, of course, I was very nosy. I was like, so what news media outlet are you with? And he's like, I'm not. I'm a documentary. And I was like, oh, okay. He had no identifying badges on him or anything. And then we started, so I couldn't ask.
Interesting. Seems like Turtle Boy maybe have a deal. Scott McGinnis, one of our mods, says, I am the Young Jerks right winger mod. I'm loving Jessica Machado right now. Can't lie. I bet he does.
Thank you, Scott.
This is the right and the left coming together again. It's like, I'm not even left anymore. I don't even think. I don't know what I am. I've had enough of politics. I've just had enough.
Me too.
I don't like any of them. I don't like any of them. None of them. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be very interesting to see what happens. I hope it ends quickly. And I just, the whole thing, it does bug me because, like you said, he got set up. I felt like the first time when he got jailed, and then he gets out again, and they try to do it again while he's at work, while he's working. Like, that's un-American to send somebody in to try to disrupt your workplace while you're working, while you're doing your job, because they don't like your work that you're doing too good of a job at it. It's just. So I hope this ends up quick.
I've lived that life. So in 2020, I was a very outspoken parent in my community, and I was advocating for school resource officers here. And the chief of police at the time didn't really like that I was a parent and kind of not staying in my lane, right? And I think, his reason for not wanting school resource officers was all money related and budget related. And as a parent of 3 kids in the school district, I did not care about that. I was like, just get me a cop at every school because there's a shooting that just happened, and everybody's all worried, right? And so it really started my decline in my community, because I started organizing parents and going on radio, and I ran for school committee, and I lost. The next year I ran again, and that chief's girlfriend at the time ran against me. And the political machine in my community recognized right away that my voice was getting too loud. I was gaining the support of people who would normally support them, and they did not like that. And so my opponent applied for a restraining order against me during COVID. Our hearings were done over the phone, not even Zoom. It was a phone call. And I didn't know anything about the law. I didn't know anything about harassment prevention orders. I didn't know anything about my First Amendment rights. I didn't know anything. And I tried my best to work through it, and I lost. And she got a restraining order against me, and she got it renewed a year later again because I still didn't know. And also I was scared. And I think Aiden could probably speak to this. You get fearful of the law at that point, and you get fearful that you're going to go to jail and be taken away from your kids, which he was. And so I was really nervous. And what I ended up finding out is every chance that they could, they put in that I violated that restraining order. Whether I was at a meeting that I was allowed to be at and I was so many feet too close, whether I put in a public records request about something, which I was doing at the time and I still do, and it was adjacent to where she worked, they put that in for a violation of the restraining order. Ultimately, there were so many violations that the clerk magistrate moved me over to an arraignment, and I was arraigned on violating the restraining order. I went all the way in this process as far as Aiden has, with the exception, finally, that the district attorney threw out the charges. But it was a long time. It was 18 months of absolute hell. And I saw how people could use restraining orders to ruin lives. And it weighs on you mentally. And it was a very difficult time. It took me a long time to get over. It took me a long time to repair my reputation. So there's a little backstory again on why I'm so passionate about this and your First Amendment right. And if I knew then what I know now, none of this would have ever happened. And there are just women that use the law to their benefit to keep people who think differently quiet. And that's what's happening with Aiden. He thinks differently than other people in power, and they don't know what to do with themselves. So they use the only tools they have, the law, to stop it. And that's why we have to fight against every single one of these issues. The smallest restraining order, the smallest, the smallest issue with Aiden, all the way up to what's going on with Karen. You have to fight against it. You're setting up everybody else for the future to be safe and be free and not be victimized. So I get emotional about this because there's a lot on the line and it's happened to me. And listen, I'm not a perfect person, the same way Aiden isn't. I was running my mouth. The craziest moment in court ever that happened to me in one of my hearings for a restraining order, I had written on my Facebook page that this woman had a platinum pussy because she was sleeping with the chief of police, and all of these things kept happening to me. And I had to testify to that in court. Like the attorney was like, she said this, and the judge asked me, and I was like, yeah, I said it, so I'm not perfect, and I've learned a lot, and I've learned how to hone my skills. And I think Aiden has too come a long way on how to really make change. But I'm not a criminal. I don't belong in jail. I've never had a record. I even had a speeding ticket. I don't deserve to be taken away from my family. And that's what people were trying to do. And they did it with Aiden, and they'll do it to you too if they can. So we have to fight for these things so that we have some sort of history on how we can stop it.
Absolutely. It's a lot of ways they try to get you. I'm dealing with some frivolous BS that people know about, not criminal, but
Yes.
it's the same type of shit. It's just they want to shut you up. That's it. They don't like your reporting. They don't like what you're saying, the facts you're bringing, so they want to come at you. And it's so obvious with Aiden what they were doing, that they were using this girlfriend, and to do it at his work, just free Aiden. I hope it ends tomorrow. I hope this judge, by the end of the day, makes a ruling. That would be good. I think it would be really. I mean, how good do you think it would be for Aiden to even get that kind of positive headline that, hey, it's only a misdemeanor, but it's been dismissed. The first case against Aiden has been dismissed. Do you think that would be helpful to Aiden, not only for, obviously his morale, but in terms of the media coverage, especially the mainstream media? You think they would cover it, or you think they would ignore it?
I think they'll cover it, but it's reluctantly. I don't think anybody's going to be there for it. And if I'm wrong, then that's a good thing, right? So let them show up. I think every win that he has had in court, even going back to the Ratchet days when these were unknowns that he was dealing with in court, those wins are very important to him, and I know he values them. I think, again, this whole story needs to be told about the conspiracy to put him in jail with Lindsay. And the other thing too, which a lot of people don't talk about, which I think needs to be discussed, is I have witnessed restraining order violation hearings. I have seen women come in and talk about men that have showed up at their house and physically, assaulted them or raped them, grabbed kids out of the house and I have been in a courtroom and heard these things. It's almost crazy to think that this has gone on this long for a violation of a restraining order, when you have far more violent, direct violations that sometimes actually don't even move forward. I mean, it's crazy to me. In that case, I was
especially
speaking about
a guy who left and then went to a police officer to try to comply.
Yeah.
That's the guy you filed the charges against. I mean, that is.
And you have to think, like, this judge has heard cases that a restraining order violation was definitely necessary, and that a woman was safer, that the man was found in violation and put in jail, right? Lindsay Gattani has never been unsafe from Aiden Carney, ever. It's the opposite. He is the one that is not safe from her. And it is a very hard narrative to change, especially in Massachusetts. We are a pro-woman state when it comes to everything. You get a divorce, the kids go straight to the woman, not to the man. A guy gets parenting time, or he gets visitation, when a woman by default gets children. I mean, I've advocated for that because it's not how I did things with my exes. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy that, and I think it's because of history and how things have gone, and you want to err on the side of caution, and you don't want to be that judge that lets a guy go and then he kills a woman. This is not the case. All you need to do is look at Lindsay Gattani's history of restraining orders. There are
look at Aiden's history. And look at Aiden's history. He has no violence, no arrest. He's like, this is it until all this shit from Norfolk County happened to him. The guy didn't even have what I had. Like, when I was younger, I got minor possession. I got busted for some weed. You know what I mean? He doesn't even have those things. Like, come on.
You're such a criminal, Mike.
I am. I got alcohol and weed. They got me. You wouldn't believe how many arrests I got for alcohol and weed. Alcohol. I was under 21. I kept getting arrested at age 19. I got arrested 3 times for alcohol. That was a rough year. Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. That's when I bottomed out. That's when I didn't go to rehab, but I went to some counseling and all that shit. That's when I decided I gotta get my drinking under control. 19. But we're all telling our secrets tonight, Jess.
I know. I divulge. Listen, if anybody wants info, you can go to Mass Courts and look up my case. You can, learn.
But Aiden doesn't even have that. Aiden, actually, there was one little case I think they dug up the people, but it's like, come on. Oh.
Well, I mean, so when you were saying about, like, it's important to us this and how this happens and it affects you and I as journalists and stuff, I think that's why a lot of people can't get past that. Like, I have a friendship with Aiden and that we're peers and we work together, because we did that one story about me. It's way bigger than that. You know what I mean? Like, it's more about, like, this new wave of journalists we are not owned by anybody, and that's very dangerous to a lot of people. Nobody owns me at all. I'm owned by my subscribers and my followers and the people who donate to me. They're my boss, and they can't do anything to me. This is what they paid for. You know what I mean? So that's dangerous to politicians. It's dangerous to commonwealths that don't follow rules. It's dangerous. And in a state where you've seen voting kind of change. Down in Bristol County, you see people vote for Trump that would never vote for Republicans, right? Fall River is positive for Trump. That's crazy. They understand that's dangerous, and they want to either shut you up or use you to help them. Like that happened with Auchincloss. He called me and said, we'd like you to do an interview with Auchincloss, and I'm going, I mean, okay, but they recognize, like, and I got to give them some credit. They understood, like, people listen to me. It's not a coincidence my platform has grown so much in the past year and a half. Yes, I love doing this, and I love my besties, and I'm easy on the eyes, but I think the real issue here is I don't care what people say, and I will report on whatever I find, and no one can stop that. They can't. That's dangerous unless they put you in jail. And you know what? It could happen to me any day. It could happen to you. It could happen to any of these guys or girls that are doing these, independent journalistic, things. It can happen. That's why this is so important.
We don't have what reporters traditionally have had, which is a lawyer behind us with our, the Boston Herald or the Boston Globe or NBC. They have lawyers to represent their reporters if they get in trouble. A lot of us independents don't have that, so they hope that we don't have enough money, that we'll cave in. And so this is the way that they can fight back against us, because a lot of times we are now more popular, like you said, than even the elected officials, who their whole career was to be well liked and to get a following, and all of a sudden these independent reporters like Aiden is more popular than a lot of them, and so there's a big problem for them. There's no doubt about it, and that's the reason that they come after independent reporters. They have no control over us, and most of us aren't playing, for access. We're not playing the access game. Like, I know you aren't. I know Aiden isn't. I'm definitely never playing for access. But a lot of these big corporations, they'll play for access. Their reporters will, and that's a way that they can control them. They can't control us. So definitely, this is why I support Aiden 100%. It's self-preservation too. It's not just because it's the right thing, which it is, but it's also about self-preservation. And I hope that more people, especially if you're just on Twitter, if you're on social media, you're a reporter too, in a lot of respect. If you're posting information that people don't have elsewhere, that's journalism. So any of you could be targeted as well. I've seen private citizens. There's been a lot of defamation suits going around. In the city of Everett, for instance, there was one case. I've heard some others. I've been talking to some people. So this is going on in a lot of different instances, politics, people exposing things. The mayor of Everett has had some issues, we'll say the least. That they got some money situation where he's getting money maybe he wasn't supposed to be getting. It seemed like it all came from the private citizens. That didn't come from like the Boston Globe. That came from these people who were bird dogging that, so this is what's going on. And I hope people support it, no matter if you're left, right, center, green, libertarian, I don't care what you are. If you care about issues, if you're reporting, if you got a YouTube, if you got a Twitter, you should be supporting Aiden Carney.
Agreed. I agree.
What are your final thoughts on this tonight, Jess, before we wrap it up? Because I said I was going to keep you here an hour. It's 9:05 now, so we're right at an hour.
Thank you. I think tomorrow we're going to find a not guilty verdict in this, that the judge is probably already very clear on where he stands with this. And I think Aiden's going to have a win under his belt. I think if Lindsay Gattani testifies, we are going to see lying and drama, flat out lying. She will perjure herself. And I think Aiden will come off as authentic and believable in his testimony. And then after all that, we'll just see some video, which is literally going to show a police officer tell him to go stand over there, which is exactly what he did. And I think this is a done deal. And then hopefully we'll be done maybe by 2:00 when Karen's getting out of lunch, and we can both pop over and we can cover the rest of tomorrow. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great day for him. Great day for Tim Bradel. Bad day for Lindsay Gattani.
So, and I got to say, there's an affidavit that Bederow filed. I don't know if people remember this. I think you might, Jess, but Lindsay lied about me. She wrote some, allegedly, if it was her that typed it out, I believe it was, but she wrote some allegations against me that were untrue, and there's an affidavit about it that Bederow filed in one of Aiden's cases. So she has no credibility. You know, she lied straight up about me. No proof, no retraction, no apology. And, you know, I'm,
Well,
you
I
know,
mean, first of all, it should be consolation to you. I don't think she has the platform where it would make much of a difference.
oh, no, I'm not going to defame, I'm not going to file anything against her, but
Right.
I did go along with that affidavit. You know, I signed my name to it and said, yeah, this is what happened. And this is what she said. And it was a lie and it's untrue. And she lied about me. And, you know, I hope that helps. If anything, it sounds like they don't need it. It sounds like, you know,
I didn't
I have
know
a feeling
that,
she's just going to
but
get up there and the judge is going to be turned off by her.
well, I mean, I'm definitely going to be wondering what she's wearing. Are we going to go for like very conservative, you know, like preppy girl, or are we going to like really like tight dress and those heels again? And I don't really know. Listen, do you know what I wish for Lindsay Gattani? I wish Lindsay would find love. I wish that she would find a man and settle down and get off this racket of restraining orders and court cases and find some sort of a relationship where she gets validation and the love that she desperately desires and settles down and is a mom and just lives a decent, just above poverty level life. Like that's what I wish for Lindsay Gattani. And I really think like there's hope for her. It's almost like I have a realtor friend and he always says there's a house for everybody. There's a girl for everybody too. There's a guy out there that looks at Lindsay Gattani and he's just like, that's wife material. I want them to find each other through this whole process, settle down, maybe move away and just disappear.
Be
And
buyer
that's what I
beware
wish
though.
for her.
Just you can buy that scary toy, you know, the dangerous toys. Just buyer beware is all I'm saying. Like
No,
I just
Mike,
hope the
it's his
person is
problem at
aware
that point.
of
It's
the issues that you're gonna be dealing with there. Because I just sorry.
no warning label. No warning label. You get married, it's it. She's yours now. Please be done.
You
Goodbye.
can't return it to the store. It's not gonna be
Well,
hard. It's
listen,
gonna be hard, very hard to get your money back on that one.
don't discount what I'm saying here. Love, affection, and attention can change that woman.
Oh, I
It is
agree.
clear
I
that
agree.
she has never found that. And in her insecurity and her inability to connect on a real, like spiritual, emotional level with a man is what really causes her to weaponize the law and lash back out at these men who ultimately say they don't love her and don't want to be with her. So if we want this like cycle of abuse of the system to stop, it must come with a working relationship. And I just
You're right, though.
really
I mean,
to
yeah, someone said Scott McGinnis said Grant was trying. Grant's not the one. Please don't. That would be a bad move. I will say he's not positive because I agree with you 100% actually because environment means everything. Like when
yeah,
I was
I
a kid,
mean,
I had my first 5 years of my life, I had not the right environment. And they thought I was slow. They thought I was special ed, all that stuff. And then I got in the right environment, started reading. Next thing I know, I'm like, they're moving me from special ed to like top of the class. They're like, that guy scored second highest in the class, like out of 100 people. Like, and it was what changed
interesting.
my environment. That I
Yeah.
was in a loving environment. I went from no love, no attention, no nourishment, no to hey, everything's gonna be about you. We're gonna, you know, get you. It makes a big
So you
difference,
can
and I know
thrive.
especially for children, but adults
Yeah.
too. So I agree. I hope she gets that. I hope she gets some
It's the
therapy,
only
get
way
around to
we
better
know.
people. Lindsay, if you're
Yes,
listening, get rid of KP, get rid of Grant, get rid of all the
right.
ratchets telling you that going after Aiden's a good thing. Find someone positive, someone that says, hey, you know what? Maybe you should just leave that behind and focus on your life. Get your life
Yes.
better.
Like we've heard many times where Aiden, like, you know, listen, I believe Aiden when he says there were good qualities and things about
Yeah.
Lindsay. I'm sure it's hard for him to find that now, but like I don't think he would be with a complete like serial killer, right? But
Right.
she just needs love and a successful relation. There's a mosquito in my room. She just needs a successful relationship. It's not too late. I mean, she needs to. I mean, she's not getting any younger. And yeah, so I think everybody should like really embrace that mentality. It's like, you know what, we're praying for Lindsay. Get on match.com and or Tinder or whatever the kids do these days and find your match and settle down and get out of the court system. I mean, like you're a court whore at this point and it's not helping you. Like you're not doing better in life after every one of these cases and every one of these restraining orders. You're just stagnant and plateaued. And you know, if Aiden saw some good in her, then we should all see it too. She needs to move on with her life. And I hope that this case tomorrow is like a big signal for her that it's time to just move on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Maybe it's not even a man. Maybe it's just a real friend, like, or somebody, like an activity. I don't know. So get into something positive. Get into.
I don't like what you're suggesting, Mike. I will not be friends with her. She cannot be my bestie.
Yeah, I'm not being her friend. She needs to find a life, though. That's what it is. Find a life that's positive.
You know, she has kids. She can throw everything she has into being a parent and cultivating these kids. So I mean, there's that. So I don't know, but I think that's my prediction. I think tomorrow's going to be a win for Aiden. And I think it'll be a really important one for him and for everybody.
Me too. Someone said they like men better than wishing something for her. They're worried about the men that might date her. All right, we're trying to be nice. Jess and I are trying to be nice in the end, right? We're trying to be.
I tried, but I used the C word already, Mike. It's over. That was over 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
Sorry.
So, all right. I said final thoughts. I think we got our final thoughts. Anything else anything else you want to bring up on Karen Reed or your blog, your Substack? I got to make sure I'm pinning all your stuff in here too.
My Substack is like again on hiatus. I wasn't working on any investigative stuff. It's all sitting there. I have so many stories that I've got to write as soon as we get out of this trial. But my Substack is Jess Machado Show. My Twitter is Jess Machado Show. My YouTube channel, which is just sitting there, is Jess Machado Show. You know, I'm focused on the tweeting and the live reporting right now. And that's it. I love all my besties and everybody just keeps following me, which is so great. I'm so lucky that you come for this. And after last year you stayed and then there's more people. I'm just like, I am the luckiest person in the world. The downside to all of this whole thing and everything that has happened is I can't interact with my besties as the way that I used to. When there were only a couple hundred of them, I felt like closer to them. And as more and more people have joined, I'm sure you know, like it's hard to even see notifications on Twitter. Like
people like, why didn't you get back to me? It's like, you don't get it. You don't get it.
My Twitter account and it tops out at 20. It says 20 plus. And then I open it and it's like 200.
Like thousands of them. I'll just keep scrolling.
Yeah. I know, me too, and I miss it, and I just like miss connecting with them. So that's the only downside to this. But I'm thankful for everybody that follows my work. I appreciate you all, and you know, come for the Karen Reed stuff and stay for all of the investigative journalism, which is there after this. So I appreciate everybody. I appreciate you, Mike, for giving me a chance to come on and chat. I miss chatting. Writing is like great, but chatting is my thing. So I love that, you know, you and Brian invite me on and let me do this. It helps like me show my personality to my followers, which sometimes gets lost in my tweets.
On Brian's show, I think tomorrow night, right?
Yes, I'm on Brian's every Wednesday throughout the duration of the trial. I think we do 8 o'clock. Sometimes I'm behind, and tomorrow's going to be a crazy day. So I'm thinking, you know, he'll be flexible with the time, but yeah, and I got to do my 24 and 24 on the way home. So it'll be a double edition because, you know, if I get into Karen's, we'll be able to talk both. So, and I also appreciate the followers that know, like I'm pausing my Karen Reed stuff to cover the Aiden stuff. There's enough of you guys out there that are covering it where they're getting really great coverage. But I know they need eyes on jurors. So I'm going to try my absolute best to, you know, get in there tomorrow. And if not, I'll be there definitely Thursday and Friday.
What's on tomorrow night? Jess will be on there. LTL Media. If you're not following them, check out Brian's show tomorrow night. I want to thank Jess Machado. We pinned it in the chat, your Twitter, your X account, so people can follow you there. You have what, 30,000 now following on there?
I have 38,000. I've got like 3,000 in the past 5 or 6 days. It's been crazy. Yeah. So I'm very, very thankful. By the way, I think the last time I was on your show, I got 100 new subscribers to my Substack. So I want to thank your viewers who crossed over and subscribed. That's huge for me. I hit 1,000 subscribers on Substack, which is a really unique platform. It's not easy to navigate through. It doesn't like get the traction like X does. It really comes down to like work. And like I said, it's kind of on hiatus during the trial. But that 1,000 was a big milestone for me. So your followers did it and put me over the top. So thank you very much.
People definitely follow Jess Machado on X, on Substack, and all the other places you're on. You said you Instagram and TikTok too, I think.
Oh my God, no? I had to get it. Listen, Mike, I had to get a TikTok because I don't know if you know, are you on TikTok?
I am, but I never use it.
Okay. So this whole thing happened where apparently there are a bunch of TikTokers that are taking my live tweets and then doing TikTok videos about them. And my daughter was like, "You're on TikTok." And I was like, "What?" And then there was this other lady, I hate myself for not remembering her name, but she was doing a TikTok live the other night, and somebody messaged me and she was like, "Oh, she would love for you to hop on." So here I am downloading the app. I'm jumping on this TikTok talking about the Karen Read trial. And there's like this. So I'm on TikTok now, Jess Machado Show. I don't know what I'm doing. But I mean, there's a whole subculture of Karen Read TikTokers that are obsessed with my work. And so, yeah, I guess I'm on TikTok to answer your question, but I don't know what I'm doing there. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Mike, I would rather give out my phone number and just tell people to text me than find me on these platforms, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm old. I'm going to be 50 next year. So I'm like a boomer practically.
You kidding me? We're both Gen X's. Oh yeah. I'm a little older. Check out my latest. I posted on Twitter one of my high school wrestling wins. I'll give you an idea how old I am. I posted the year it happened. Okay. 1989. 1989. Oh, I posted one of my wrestling pictures from 1989 in high school.
You look.
I want to thank you so much. I got one last question for you tonight. Yeah. Not about me, but not about how old we are. They want to know if you're going to cover Sandra Birchmore as well in federal court when that happens.
Yes. I'm also going to probably cover the Brian Walsh case as well. And then the name is escaping me, but the mom who murdered her 3 children, that case as well. I think there's a real need for honest in courtroom reporting that we have not seen before. And so, yes, I plan on pivoting over to those as long as the desire is there from readers for me to do that. But again, I think, you need some inside reporting on these cases that are of public interest. So yes. The Somerset politicians had it in. Yes, they did. But that's fine. I don't like to talk politics too much, but the Democrats had Somerset in a stronghold for a long time. And we have finally moved the needle more towards the middle, which is like, I think where everybody wants to be in this state, just some balance. You can't have the pendulum all the way to one side, because then it swings to the other side, and that's not fair either. So it's taken 5 years of like shitty reputation and dragging my name, but I just kept my head down, focused on the work. And so we're in a much better place in Somerset right now. Definitely. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much for being here again tonight, this week, Jessica Machado. And we'll look for you on X and Substack and everywhere else you're at, TikTok. Have a great rest of your week. And thank you so much. We'll be looking for updates tomorrow from court. I can't wait to see what's going on. And I'll be following it through your tweets on X tomorrow.
Court starts at 11 a.m. I'll be there, and I'll be updating everybody from the courtroom.
Excellent. Thank you so much for doing that. We'll catch up with you soon and watch you tomorrow night on LTL. Thank you so much, Jessica Machado.
Thank you, Mike. Bye, guys.
That was great. I want to thank everyone who's been here tonight. Mark Bederow, first guest, and then Jessica Machado. I want to thank our moderators, MJ, Stephanie, Sarah and Shock and Horror, Jen O, and Scott McGinnis. I want to thank all the super chats. I'm going to read some of the super chats if I can. This is a super chat. This is a K9 Mind Help says, Mike, you're young drinking, and Jess, your funny words. Are you sure you are not both Australian? I know some of the words tonight that came out of her mouth when she said the C word. I was almost like, it's an Aiden word. But yeah, my drinking, it's funny. When I was 19, that was a rough year on several levels because everything I wanted in my life at that point was wrestling. I was high school, college wrestling. Like all I was thinking about is like I was in college, but I didn't really care about the books. All I cared about was wrestling. And my whole goal in life, I was like, I want to be on the Olympic team. I'm gonna try out. I'm gonna wrestle at Bridgewater State. I'm gonna try for the. I knew a kid who did it twice actually for the qualifiers. I think he took fourth and fifth. He never made the team. He was good too, mass kid. But that's what I wanted to do. I want to try out for the Olympics, and I got hurt. And I kept having surgeries, one surgery after another, after every year, and so you get depressed. You lose your identity at 19. It's like the first thing I'm really good at. So that's why I was a mess. I was drinking. Yeah. Got in a lot of trouble. Age 19. Those were some rough years. God bless my parents. All right. Enough about me. Let's read some of these super chats. I want to thank Laurie for sending a super chat tonight. Also, Rexy, and I know it, said, could defense claim that Karen crying I hit him was just a false memory? It is so good. That is the comment of the night, Rexy, and I know it. That is really the comment of the night. Like, I know, right? Right? Why not? If it worked for the Boston police officer, it's just a false memory. Just a false memory. All right. Renan's dream date, Randy. Also, want to say Jess M looks so good in yellow. Yeah, yellow is definitely her color. Thank you. I gotta know says the right to right. Exactly. That's what we're fighting for. Breening's dream date, Randy says, great show tonight. Just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for watching. Nikki's been a member for 13 months. That's awesome. She says, Pam Measley, juror, going on Turtle Boy Live tomorrow. That's the special guest. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be tomorrow night. I want to get her after. We'll see. I want to see how I've seen her post online. I'm interested to see. That's going to be exciting tomorrow night. I'm looking forward to that. After this is over, too, I'm going to just read the super chats. I'm going to redirect everyone to Turtle Boy tonight. He's streaming probably right now. Amor Valesi says, I love Bradow's voice when he's arguing with feeling. Sounds like Cameron from Ferris Bueller. Wow. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. P.S. Please, can we get Cosgrove a 2 times button, 2 times speed button? I know anytime I have him, I got to speed him up. Anytime I watch a Cosgrove video, got to hit it twice. Cameron, I remember that. That Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Those are good movies. Poor Cameron. He was the guy with the car, right? His father was going to kill him because, yeah. So they had to reset the odometer. And then the car goes in the pool. San Francisco, great analogy, Jess. Bill Buckner's moment. We all remember that, don't we? 1986, I believe it was. If I'm remembering correctly. The ball went right under Buckner's leg. He had such a great season, too. He shouldn't have been, I feel bad for Bill Buckner because he should have never been playing at that moment. He was a first baseman, but he was an offensive first baseman. They should have took him out. He shouldn't have been on the field at that moment, and he was older. Amar Valesi, the Bill Buckner moment was really, I think, the coach's moment more than anything else. The coach should have removed him. Amar Valesi said, I'm inclined to think judges projecting her impatience with the defense. That's exactly what's going on. No doubt about it. Zoe B sent 1999, especially after we heard from Jess tonight. Definitely seems that's exactly what the judge was doing, projection. Zoe B says, Jess, thank you for being a really talented local journalist. Appreciate your professionalism and dedication. Wishing you strength. Feel better. Thank you, Zoe B. Nico Jr. says, do a poo. I don't know what that's all about. Thank you for the Australian $2.99. Do a poo. Is that an Australian thing? Maybe I'm missing something tonight. TG became a YouTube member. Thank you so much, TG. Do a poo. That's a new super chat I've never seen before. I want to thank Sandra Fody sent 199. Says, will Bev have consequences for her conduct? I doubt it. I really do. I mean, do you expect it, Sandra? I don't think anyone does. Lisa sent 499. Says, I'm in Oswego, New York, middle of nowhere, but on Lake Ontario, lots of snow. Thank you so much, Lisa. Laura, who's a frequent commenter, she's also on Twitter. Thank you so much, Laura. Sent 499. She said, thank you, Mike, for having Bederow on so much. I know it cost you. I appreciate you. It doesn't cost me anything. It comes on for free. Oh, you think because of the super chat thing? Nah. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't do shows thinking about money, honestly. I never have. I did shows for years and made no money. So it doesn't matter. And Bederow has brought more money onto this channel than anybody else, you know? Like he's been very generous with his time and his support. Shay44 says, are you worried about a jury plant? She was adamant about starting that specific time. I have grave concern. Yes, I've been concerned about that the entire time, especially after the last trial. That's why I still feel like hung jury is a good possibility. You know, most trials, you feel like a defendant is usually getting convicted, like 75% of the time. In this case, I feel like, especially this retrial, I'd say it's 50-50. I think maybe even 75-25. 75% chance she's going to be found not guilty, 25 hung jury. I'd say 0.00001 chance that she'll be found guilty. Like, so I think it's going in her direction. I think Shay, probably the only thing we have to worry about is like a jury plant. That's how confident I am right now. And you never know. You never know. Paula said it felt like Lally set up Brennan with that sweatshirt. He just sat there and let him sink. Maybe he did. Who knows? Maybe Lally will come out someday and say, yeah, I didn't want anything to do with it. Why is he sitting there though, right? KMS TVT sent 10 SARs, said Hank seems to like that 24-hour mile per video. Any thoughts? Well, I think he likes it because the Twitter freaks that are anti-Karen Reed all went crazy over it. They're like, oh, look, it smashed the tail light. Look at that. I think that's all it is. He's hoping that people will be confused on the jury. Someone on the jury will say, well, if the tail light smashed, right? Even though it didn't smash the way that they said it would, even though it didn't have any of all the other stuff they can ignore. That's what anti-Karen Reed wants. And I think that Hank is just hoping that there might be one silly person on that jury that will ignore everything. So we'll see. I think that's why. I think they're just hoping that one person is confused enough to say guilty. Sandra Fody says, will there be eyes into corruption when over? Absolutely. If this is a not guilty verdict, I think the pressure is going to be on. I think there's going to be a lot more pressure and a lot more people coming out. Maybe some big names. Bederow, last time he was on, kind of hinted around that he thought, if I'm not misquoting him, but I believe he kind of hinted that maybe someone would be coming out. We'll see. I'm interested to see. I have a feeling that we may see some other names out there. Just Jim sent $10. Said Brennan asked about a body losing 4 degrees an hour once dead could take about 4 hours. Doctor agreed. Did Brennan admit it? John was found at 6:37 a.m. 4 hours earlier. It's 2:37. Butt dials. How long's to die? I know, Just Jim. Thank you for the donation. Oh, Jessica's waving in the you don't have to hang out, Jess, in the green room. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. I can't hear you. Should I bring you back up? You want to come back up for a second? Yeah.
Yeah.
What What's up, Jess? Anything going on?
Yeah, I got not me
Any
just coming back
comment
and hijacking your show. I just learned who is a guest on Aiden's show tomorrow. Are you aware of this?
Yes, I just found out.
Okay.
So
I'm freaking out. I just want to let everybody know. Somebody, I guess, commented and said, "Can you get my reaction?" I'm dying. I don't even know what to say. This is such a big deal.
Beasley.
This is my favorite juror from trial one. I
See, I
can't
didn't know that.
I can't believe this is happening. I got off here and
What can
my
you tell us
messages.
about her? Like, why was she your favorite?
She was the prettiest. She's so pretty.
Oh,
And
really? What is
she
she, a
dressed
blonde, brunette? What is younger,
she's
older?
I would probably say she's my age, like between 45 and 50. Super pretty, dressed super great every day. Some days dressed like sexy with like a great dress and great heels, like very like great style. I was obsessed with her. She made so many facial reactions. She was one of those people that I just knew believed Karen was innocent, and she gave it all the time. She gave us reaction. She leaned back in her chair. She would huff and puff. I mean, like, this is, I just wanted to come on. I didn't mean to hijack your show, but like, I can't believe that we're going to hear from her. It is, I can't believe it. I fumbled this too because somebody gave me her name on after she got dismissed. The day that she got dismissed was like the craziest day. It was the first day of jury deliberations, and I was devastated. I was live tweeting. If you go back to Fall River Reporter and you look at my tweets from that day, like, I'm like, oh my God, she's walking in. Oh my God, she's talking. Oh my God, her hands are on the hips. Oh my God, they just let her go. Like, it was just like a culmination of like emotion. And I was so mad that they let her go because it was so obvious it was a Karen vote, you know? And then somebody gave me her name. I had put out there and I was like, if anybody knows who that juror is, and someone showed up outside the courthouse and was like, "Are you Jess Machado?" And I was like, "Yes." And they're like, "The juror's name that you're looking for is," and gave me the name, and then walked away. Didn't say anything else. So I've known who this juror is from that day. I knew before Aiden, and then I fumbled it. I found her on Facebook within 30 seconds. If anybody saw me, Mike, I was like a psycho in my car, screenshotting every photo from her Facebook page in case like she went dark, which is exactly what she did. I was like a psycho. I couldn't message her, so I commented on a photo. I was like, "Hi, like, I'm a reporter. If you want to," she blocked me instantly. I totally fumbled it. But thankfully Aiden connected with her. So, I mean, maybe I can do like a public apology to Pam Beasley. Like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what I was doing. I was barely a journalist back then, but that's it. I just can't believe if I had known, I would have talked about this when I was on the show. So I'm sorry.
You're still on the show. You're still on the show. People are hearing it.
That's it. You guys, he's getting juror number 3. I can't believe it. So that's it.
I can't wait. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. We're looking forward to that. Pam Beasley, juror number 3. Thank you so much, Jess.
Thanks for letting me jump on. Bye, besties.
Bye now. Bye. Texas sister says medical examiner said today that she only got the x-rays 2 days ago. So did prosecution not turn over? Jan Kirk said $5 and concerned about one lone juror that votes guilty that believes the video and ignores the evidence. Will the 3 counts be voted on independently? They should be, and that's exactly what Brennan is shooting for, John. I agree. D. Pat sent $5. It says, was Bev close to calling a mistrial today with Lapizado's outburst and clowning Hank badly? Will she flip over the board if she doesn't get her way? I don't think so. No. I don't think she was close to calling a mistrial because of that. I mean, if she called a mistrial because of that, after all the shit she ignored from Brennan, no way, D. Pratt. No, D. Pat, sorry. No way. Bev is not going to call a mistrial. Bev wants a jury verdict. That's it. TG says 1999 says Bev scolded AJ for talking too fast. He should start the close by apologizing for this passion. Then he should read his entire close slowly, methodically. I think AJ should do whatever makes him comfortable. You know, he's a professional. I'm not giving that guy any advice on how to do a closing. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the super chat, though. Thank you so much, TG, for the super chat. It's funny when Jessica said all of us think we're lawyers or something, we're internet lawyers or something, and I was just thinking, not me. I talk to Bederow every night. I don't feel like I'm a lawyer. You know what I mean? Every time I have Bederow on, I'm like, I have no clue. You know what I mean? Like the stuff is, and then I have some of the other ones, Nan and my friend there from Texas, Carl Steinbeck. I mean, these people give me insights. It just reminds me I am not a lawyer, so I don't feel like a lawyer, and I don't feel like I would want to give AJ any advice on how to close this case. But some people feel like they can. I don't know. Terry Martin sent $10. As Attorney Bederow, what do you think that other mass judges are thinking about Bev's behavior? Who has the ability to stop her? You are super. I don't think that they're going to tell us. I don't think Bederow has any idea what judges are thinking. And they're not going to tell us. And I don't think they're going to stop her. Mitch Harper became a YouTube member tonight. Thank you so much, Mitch. Very much appreciated. Greg S. is an Australian $5 from Australia. Says, curious why ARCA didn't do audio analysis. 24 miles per hour in reverse, extremely loud, and potential accident. That's a good point. We should have considered that, how loud it was, right? Especially no one in the house heard it. That's a very good point, Greg. I wonder if they ever looked into that. Ape Man became a member tonight. Thank you so much, Ape Man. The thing about it, Greg, I think sometimes there's only so much you can look into. I think Karen Reed's team did a good job, but there are other things they obviously could have looked into. But it's just like, when do you quit? Clark has the blueprint. Lally did the sneak without disclosing no true bill. Wow, I don't belong here with Samantha Benigno, MSMA. I'm not sure how to say your last name, Samantha, but I have to say I did check out your YouTube. Actually, I came across it recently. I like what you do. You should probably I should get you as a guest on here. I appreciate the very generous super chat tonight. If people haven't checked out her channel, definitely check out her channel. I don't belong here with Santa B. I'll just call her Samantha B. I don't want to screw up anyone's name. Thank you so much, Samantha, for the super chat tonight. JB Guthrie sent $4.99, says, I am a huge fan, sending prayers and warm thoughts out to you. Thank you so much, JB. How's Long sent $4.99, said, renowned legal expert Grant Smith Ellis claimed that Brennan ruined La Posada today. Oh, man. Grant. Grant makes me chuckle, man, now. Oh, God. Poor Grant. Typing away. He's like, this is Grant in court. Oh, boy. Beth Loudon sent $10. How do you think the defense is feeling getting beat down at every turn, losing so many objections, motions, and arguments? Must be frustrating. They've done a great job at keeping their cool. Well, I think that's it. I mean, I think they probably live for this shit, honestly. Even though it's stressful, it looks stressful for us. I'm sure it is frustrating in the moment. But at the same time, they're like, this is where the fight is. This is where we get to prove how good we are. With everything against us. Look at this defense they put on. It's kind of like when you're an athlete, you want to compete against the best and see how good you are, right? And it's not like Bev is the best judge, but this is like, kind of the best environment to test yourself, where everything is against you. Everything is against you every time. So I think in a weird way, it probably raises their competitive streak. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they probably get a little like, you know, a little fired up. You know what I mean? It's like you've been challenged, you know? So I have a feeling this is like keeping their fire going. Like, not that they need it on this case, obviously, because they got someone's life at risk. So I don't think we should worry about that as much, even though it sucks, because they're winning. I feel like they're winning. I feel like they're winning despite all of it. It's like if you can win a match and the ref's against you, like how good are you? Thank you so much, Sarah and Shock and Horror. She's gifted 10 Young Jerks memberships tonight. Our moderator, thank you so much, Sarah, for being here. Thank you for everything our mods do. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the gift. You are awesome. I love you, Sarah. Thank you so much. Thank you, MJ. Thank you, Jen O. We have the best mod team. It's Stephanie and Scott. I think I'm out of here. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. I'm sorry if I didn't get to all your questions I tried tonight. There were a lot of questions coming through, a lot of good questions. I want to thank you for the quality questions you had tonight. And let's go check out Turtle Boy. I'm going to redirect everyone to Turtle Boy right now. Before I do that, I want to play this little video real quick.
That's a surprise.
Attorney Bederow, today's the first day. We heard first thing was a motion in regards to quashing Paul's testimony. So I think the judge, if I'm correct, ruled yes, he's going to be here, but there's still some discussion on what is allowed in regards to Paul. Can you elaborate on that?
That's correct. He seems like he's going to be allowing the testimony because he's a fact witness. We still have to discuss the scope of how much disclosure of text messages there's going to be first.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit on your decision to go to a bench trial and not a jury?
Well, Judge Pomeroy is a very educated, consumer of this case. He's seen a few of the hearings before, so we didn't really have to, give a lot of background with him. So, we think he's very fair, and he's been around a long time, and we think that, like any litigant, you take your best shot, and you think you want to put your case in the best foot forward to the best possible fact finder, and I think he's that in this case.
Did you ever think that you wouldn't be up against Cosgrove and this would be a mellow situation? I mean, he started this. He's not here finishing it. What are your thoughts on, this whole process? Here we are, and it's Cosgrove that's actually representing the Commonwealth.
Yeah, Judge Cosgrove's been fine. I've been in his courtrooms for a long time. Really no issues that I can see. It's been perfectly fine. We're getting along pretty well, and we're sharing things without really needing court orders to do so, which is a good sign that the case is moving along. And we actually just had a conference inside about sharing some discovery and resupplying us with some discovery, and things are fine with it.
The judge is saying that Wednesday's the only day left in this. Do you think this is all going to be buttoned up by Wednesday?
Yes, because he's going to go till the end of the day. So we feel like that's plenty of time. From 11 till the end of the day should be sufficient.
Any surprises today? We heard from 2 court officers, and then we heard from Matt McCabe's sister. Any surprises in the testimony today?
No surprises at all. Everything's going exactly how we anticipated, and we're feeling very confident in the case, and we're going to do our thing, and we're very confident it's going to land where it needs to land.
How difficult is it to give an opening statement in this case that has so much depth to it, and a lot of different parties and theories? How hard was that to cultivate that opening statement today?
It's okay. I mean, Aiden and I have been together a couple of years now, and we're very focused on the details of these things. The details matter. The chronology matters. It's not the first. It's not our first rodeo with the complainant here, and we've done this a few times. We've done well, and we're pretty happy and confident with our chances.
Last question is in regards to the complainant in this. You made a motion, I believe, to allow video that depicts Lindsay Gattani somewhat soliciting her ex, who she had in an order against, where she gets in his vehicle, you said, then calls the police. He ended up being arrested. You're claiming that this shows a pattern of abuse of these orders, and the judge allowed that. That was a win for you today, I'm assuming, to have that video allowed?
I think I'm gonna wait until it's in evidence, because I don't want to comment on potential evidence in the case.
Okay.
And I just want to kind of rely on my in-court statements on that, and we'll kind of see where it lands. But yes, we are offering that video from a prior occasion.
Very good. Thank you, Attorney.
Good to see you.
Thank you.